Welcome back to ALGS. The Split One playoffs have begun. It's time. The best crowd in esports. Make some noise. They're running on me. As we get ready for game number one.
Look at the bodies. It's a graveyard down here.
Can he get the double? Yes, he does. Furhol going for the triple kill to kick off the ALGS playoffs in London.
He's going to be hitting some big
Oh
shots.
my goodness, the damage.
The Graver shot finally landing.
Guard is going to win this game.
Ascend will pick up the win.
Oh, he's playing a block. He punches him.
Are you kidding me?
He's on main. It should work out. Ligaboo. Oh, it's going with the Graver. He's going to go in and finish off the damage as well.
Setting a world record.
23 kills. $1 million is on the line today. It is a shootout.
I'm gonna move forward.
To become the champions here in London.
Hurry! You want the money?
You get the damage here. TSM up in the skies. How's the double the heavens? London belongs to TSM.
Good evening, everyone. It is the final Apex Legends Global Series preseason qualifier for North America. We had EMEA just this morning, and now we get to send our last few teams to Pro League next year. I'm Spider Tiff, and I'm joined alongside Dia, who thankfully was on the broadcast this morning calling all the action. Is probably a little tired, but how are we feeling? Are you ready for this?
I am. My breath is just starting to catch again as I realize that we're coming to the end of yet another preseason, and that, while fortunate for some and even for many on today's broadcast, will also mean that a lot of people don't make Pro League. And to see dreams achieved and crushed is always something that feels a bit bittersweet.
It really does. I mean, I think I've still recovered from shedding some tears based off the EMEA last qualifier this morning, and I wasn't hanging out in Mandy's chat offline just like 20 minutes ago. His chat's still rowdy, by the way. It's super cool to see the support over there. But let's go ahead and jump into that overview of year 4 of the Apex Legends Global Series so we can kind of see what is happening. Since this is the final preseason qualifier, we're looking for our last few teams. We are still over in that left triangle. Well, not even a triangle, bro. I'm telling you, there's a good thing I cast because I don't know my shapes, Dia.
Yeah, we're not in architecture, so it's okay.
It's definitely still okay. But yes, this is the final preseason qualifier. And then we're going to go on holiday. Everyone can celebrate Christmas or whichever holiday you support there. And then we will jump into that Split One Pro League in January. But that is what our teams here tonight are vying for. If you win tonight, you go to Pro League. And then we get to tussle on about all of those points. So let's go ahead and pull up. We'll talk about the points, what's on the line, Dia, because it's going to be a lot of math.
Now, I admitted this on EMEA this morning, but I have been fully dreading explaining the point system in the background. I will do it. I'm going to do it. But first, it's important that we cover what's going on in today's 6-game series. This is how all the preseason qualifiers have worked thus far. We're going to play 6 games. 3 of them will take place on World's Edge. 3 of them will take place on Stormpoint. At the end of all that, based on a combination of your placements and the kills that you've gotten along the way, you will end up somewhere on the leaderboard. That itself seems pretty obvious. What happens from then on is that we add preseason qualifier points to that. I will not take you through everything. What I will say is that by the end of today, we should have not just our 4 winners of each individual preseason qualifier that have moved on to Pro League, but based on the points accumulated by their placement in today's lobby, we should also know over the course of all preseason qualifiers who the 4 teams joining them by points qualification in Pro League will be.
Yeah, and that's going to be the important thing. I know you and Zephyr kind of hung back at the end of the games earlier this afternoon, and we're kind of waiting to see who Battlefy basically was like, these are the top four teams. So we'll likely do the same here for you guys at home that are watching, kind of waiting, and a lot of things. Let's go ahead and look at the point system for the games itself, how those teams will be accumulating. This is no stranger. If you are familiar with Apex competitive, then this will be tried and true for you. If you're new here to Apex Comp, welcome. Let's go ahead and talk it out. 12 placement points will be granted for a team that gets first place. It will scale all the way down to 15th place, and then 16th through 20th. Well, you don't get any points, but that's okay because hopefully you grab some eliminations where you'll get 1 point per elimination. But where are you going to be getting those points? Well, let's go ahead and drop into that map schedule, Dia. Where are we starting?
This time, we're going to be starting on Storm Point, which is a very different flavor of beginning. I actually really do like that in between regions we changed the starting map because it gives us very different looks at the players, at the teams, especially when you get to start on something like Storm Point that does tend a little bit towards the madness, towards the chaos. Storm Point, while it is still a big, wide open map, earlier today in our sixth and final game of the day, we had something like 5 teams remaining by round 3. It was absolute madness. I am expecting North America Storm Point, since it comes earlier in the day, to go a bit slower, but only a bit.
So we're gonna get the chaos on World's Edge, is what you're saying. Everyone's gonna be inting. Everyone's gonna have to watch out because no one's going to abide by the zone, and we're expecting chaos.
In so many words, I think
Yes.
that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
So chaos,
Let's
lots of
yeah.
chaos. Let's go ahead and look
Yeah.
at the groups that are going to be associated with the chaos that we're witnessing here today, because there are some teams that by points should be locked into that Pro League qual spot, even if they don't actually take the win here today. And those are going to be your teams up in that 1 and 2 slot: Nine Lives and Evolution.
Yes, if Evolution and Nine Lives, if they from here on out lock in Pathfinder Caustic Vantage
Perfect.
and duke it out in the middle of Cascade Falls until a third party comes in, they will still make Pro League. And for those of you who are watching today going, why are they playing that crazy composition? Is this a Pro League roster? I raise to you the fact that these are the only 2 rosters who, during every single preseason qualifier, have made it to the finals and made it in style. So these 2 teams are going to Pro League. We do have 3 other teams in here today that can qualify based on where they place. If boys place above 7th today, they will be going to Pro League. If Oversleepers place above 8th, they will be going to Pro League. And if Drop In Gaming place above 8th, they will also be going to Pro League.
And that's where things get scary, right? And a lot of that happened in EMEA this morning. That opens up the issue of everyone having targets on their back for the must win scenario. For the teams that have to win this qualifier in order to secure a Pro League spot in January, they have to deal with teams that are already confident and can completely, I'm not going to say they could throw because I like to believe that they're not going to throw in completely into everything or, take their decisions based on who they potentially, yeah. We're going to watch it. We're going to have some fun. And it might be a little wild, Dia.
That I am expecting, nay, demanding, because we saw it in EMEA this morning, so we gotta live up to the hype. As you say, however, with 5 squads that will be going to Pro League by the end of the day, 1 winner plus 4 via points after the course of all of the preseason qualifiers, there are 15 teams in this lobby that, unless they win everything right now, do not have a chance of going to Pro League. If you're Rise, TSMX, SKTT2, Weave, Tripods, The Crypt, the list goes on. If you go from 6 on this list all the way down to 20th, all of those teams need to win, have to have the most points after 6 games, or they kiss their dreams of Pro League goodbye until next split.
And I think that's a really good setup, knowing that we are just underway for map number 1 on Storm Point. Our dreams, their dreams, everyone's dreams of hitting Pro League start now and obviously on that storm point. So we think about where we're going to be hitting. I haven't necessarily seen any drop spot maps. So if the analysts are hiding them somewhere, I love that for you guys. But for us, I'm just going to be gearing things up based on the first map that we witnessed. Are we going to be expecting any contests? Well, for the teams that have already locked in Pro League, I'd imagine that they're going to have a little bit of free fall of wherever they want to go. They'll be okay with going.
And as you say, especially when we're gearing up for the first game, the question on a lot of people's minds, especially if you've kept up with the semifinals and quarterfinals throughout the course of the past couple weeks, is what's going to happen with boys. Boys
Mhm.
have been the thorn in a lot of people's side, and as we've already illustrated, they have to get at least 7th place today in order to make it to Pro League. Will they do that uncontested? Or will teams that they have tried to gatekeep in the past take boys' fate into their own hands? That's always going to be a concern of theirs when we're dropping into not just this map, but when we move over to World's Edge either. So I'm keeping my eyes on boys as they head over towards what appears to be checkpoint to start the day.
Not going to be a bad starting spot for them. You keep an eye on Cenote. Tripods appear to have this relatively uncontested, with board kind of taking millage. And you can see the way that they've split dropped. The one member of board is like just able to narrowly escape and head over towards that trident. Cenote, they're going to have crafting. They're going to have a ring console, and it seems to be relatively nice. But you can see that 9 lives right here. This is where things will get mixy because you mentioned with the boys heading over to checkpoint, it seems like they've got a little bit of company.
And you know what? I may not have gotten the caustic right, but I picked up on Pathfinder, and I'm very happy about that. Dynasty with a Havoc Alternator is coming back for vengeance up against the boys, who have a great defensive position, even in checkpoint, but that's not to say that this is going to be an easy fight up against a blue and a purple that have been picked up off drop. Skynate's not going to find too much damage, but 9 Lives very much want these kills, want to push boys further down the leaderboards and make sure they don't have to deal with them in Pro League.
Well, let's be real. Only a double time and a door just saved Cooper because at that point I thought he was going to be history, which would have opened the door for the boys to be a little bit more comfortable. But it doesn't seem as if the boys want to kind of push their issue on this, especially with no ammo in the Havoc, Borelli already going down. And this is not what you want, especially when you have to be above that 8th place finish here tonight to be able to ensure qualification.
We've got no ammo on the Rampage either. Vaki doesn't have a whole lot of options. And with 2 Peacekeepers, one on Darks, one on Vaki, close range clutches are absolutely possible, but they've lost control of checkpoint in every sense. And 9 Lies continue to close the gap. What is normally a very good fighting squad. Boys, we got a lot to look forward to in previous quals. Now maybe losing out. Second push going to come in from Cooper. Gets a shield swap. Remember, pushing into a Peacekeeper that we've already seen take down 1.
That's true. And the
Another
PK
for
was
50.
so vital early on in EMEA, but it doesn't matter. Dynasty was able to seal the deal there. The reset coming through, and the boys will be the first team eliminated. I hear a little BM in the background, and I understand, but let's be real, because here we go again. Evolution now pushing into drop-in gaming. You can see Jaeyeon already incredibly low, and Vudo kind of trying to close the distance. A good reinforcement on the door to stave off this push just a smidge.
This is a really early time to have 2 teams potentially eliminated, and eliminated when they're on the verge of qualifying to Pro League. This is theoretically possible to just take out drop-in gaming, take out boys, never let them hit those 7th, 8th spots that they need, and ultimately eliminate them from contention in Pro League. Evolution are taking a while doing it, however, and over by Mill, we do know that other squads can rotate up. You called out that board landed in Millage. SKTT2 landed themselves over by Ceto Station, and Tripods at Cenote Cave. So if this fight goes on for a long time, Evolution could find themselves in trouble.
They really could, but will a team elect to extend out into this engagement? Yes, they are still in zone, but I guess it just depends on the rotational pass that other teams nearby decide to take. But Urice doesn't have any more nades at this point. He had already utilized the Arc Star through the window. And with the way that they have just kind of reinforced themselves in that building, I think Evolution is going to heed to your wards and say this maybe isn't in our best interest.
Really nice hold from Drop-In Gaming. Gotta hold your breath for them in future rounds. Konichiwa, however, have made their way into the ring, and you did mention this, that we have some teams like Evolution, like Drop-In Gaming, that were already in the zone. Well, Konichiwawa's in a very similar position with the additional zone read that this is going to be pulling over into checkpoint once again. This could be an endgame spot from Konichiwawa's.
And I love that for them. It makes me a little bit more sad for the boys, though, as well, because if that ring had ever so slightly pulled up towards checkpoint, it could have been such a monumental game for them. But if I'm the boys going next into map 2, knowing that I had already fallen out, maybe we adjust and not contest early on. But Nine Lives will be able to maintain that top of checkpoint. Rise currently rotating in from North Pad are going to have to decide on which like chokehold they would like to pursue. For the
Mhm.
teams that are very much out of the circle, we're looking at Los Licks down there on that southeastern side, because by the time they get here, the large majority of this entire POI and even the buildings south of it are going to be contained.
This is the difficult part about moving into checkpoint is that, like you say, a lot of buildings get taken up. Also, a lot of choke points moving into and out of checkpoint. It plays out a lot like Geyser almost when we think about World's Edge. GS Mechs find themselves in a very different scenario over in Jurassic Park, a super open POI, and one that happens to be, this time, around the edge of the map. They're making their exit just ahead of Spire Academy, who are coming up behind them, but GS Mechs position themselves in such a way to try and take a fight, and I expect it to kick off.
And it will do just that. But Los Licks, in the meantime, losing out on one member. It's them and LBJ hitting that rotation. I had mentioned during the rotations we were looking at checkpoint on the map that these two teams were so far out. And you're right, Fish Farms, the devastated coast, a lot of that just kind of ripped. These changes have made for a very interesting south side of the map. But as we move over to checkpoint ever so slightly, we need to keep an eye on it. I don't believe that Los Licks will be able to grab that banner, not with LBJ forcing them. But here is that fight. Another team is looking to take on Drop In Gaming.
Dig are going to spend the entire game in this building if nobody does anything about it. There is
Someone's trying.
absolutely no reason for them to move, with teams continuing to pile in alongside them. The Crypt go down before Drop In Gaming even suffer a threat, and now, with Catalyst Walls expended and clearly a kill being picked up by Drop In Gaming, they are looking just fine, even on the outside of checkpoint.
I feel like they're being like a Venus flytrap at this point. This building is they're like, oh hey, do you just want to come over and see this building? And then they completely take a life or two with them, getting a chunk of damage. Because you mentioned that they already got 1 KP. Well, they got an assist. So there's 2. Stunny, Crook, and Jaeyeon are finessing this building to the best of their ability. And where they get those eliminations, they're just being able to resupply on the loot by just peeking out the front door and then immediately reinforcing it.
I mean, Board is not coming out on top of this engagement. They're being farmed for Evo shields right now. Drop In Gaming is simply profiting off of having them right next door, and the tripods have just moved in as well. Let's not forget that with Board having lost one already, they're a weakened duo with now 2 full 3-person teams in the area.
Oh, and here we go. Evolution, who had recently tried to push onto Drop In Gaming, has extended out towards the down beast to take on Rise. And with Voodoo already going down, we have to look towards the 2 remaining members of Evolution. But Urice, in prior preseason qualifiers, has had such an intense clutch factor about him. So keep an eye on this. Navigating the window, the 2 drop down and try to take on Panic, and they will get the knock. And Rise, we know just how good Detox and Avexis are. They have experience throughout these qualifiers and former Pro League, if I'm not mistaken. Just like that, Evolution has already been eliminated. But granted, with the points throwdown, they're gonna be okay.
I mean, these players have even made their way not just through Pro League, but through other pro scenes, playing as Gears of War in the last preseason qualifiers in order to make it here. The fact that they take another fight, win another fight, is one thing. The fact that now they're doing it off the back of a fantastic semifinals performance as well, because just yesterday, they put up 68 points in 6 games, 34 of those kills. This was a roster that was on a rampage through the semifinals, clinching first place and moving themselves into a position where now they have to win today in order to make it back to Pro League.
Well, taking out Evolution right off the rip is a strong way to start this. But now turning our tides to Spire Academy, still on that rotational pattern to try and navigate up towards that checkpoint area. Now, Tripod's still holding the mill, right? That's where they decided to rotate and not committing directly into checkpoint. So if Spire Academy keeps on the path that they're moving into, they'll eventually walk up to the mill where they will likely find some kind of contention.
LBJ start moving in. This is through the recently emptied Jurassic, because we already saw a lot of teams try and take some small fights in there. Bit of an awkward position, though, and everybody ended up disengaging. Cedo Station lies on the rotation. It should provide some crafting to both LBJ and Tri. Both teams, of course, wanting to get their better end of that now, but if Tri are just starting to craft, they've lost out on quite a bit of time because LBJ have no reason to give them any extra momentum.
And here we go. Spire Academy has made their way towards the mill, and we're extending out into the zone to rotate north of Tripods, trying to occupy that further building. But Gent, Nick Merckx, and Deeds, they have spotted them out. And Gent being a menace with a Skull Piercer on the 30-30, finding a good chunk of damage, able to grab a knock onto one. So I'd imagine they're going to look to capitalize on the rest.
The answering Rolling Thunder is a nice move from Gent as well, since typically a Rolling Thunder on the other side of this engagement would be meant to buy Spire space. Gent gets to deny them that exact same space and pushes Spire Academy further out into the ring. This ring won't kill them, not yet, but it's certainly going to weaken a squad that's already running with very few meds and now down a squad mate.
And I love that they don't even have to leave the Ruth of the mill to be into that engagement. Now we turn our tides back to another fight that you were kind of shaping up here with K6 finding some nice damage. That player might be a little bit on the high ground. Expending a black hole will just miss out slightly, but K6 is finding it tough to be able to be out of the line of damage and still heal up.
Minute left on this zone close, and TS Mechs are watching over this engagement, having rotated up to the ridge line leading from Ceto into Millage. LBJ, as a result, having eaten some shots from a distance, are going to back off. Evac Tower is something that they do have available should they try and disengage, but we've got yet another team starting to make their moves in here. Unleash and Oversleepers are both right next door to the previous 3v3 that was kicking off in Ceto.
Ooh, and you know they're going to want a piece of that if they can just get over there. And we have Dine, Legatron, Valorzy. I was doing some perusing on Reddit earlier today, and I found out that this team is a Destiny 2 players. So another title as well. You know, we were talking about some of the other teams, specifically Rise being former Gears of War pros and finding success here in Apex. So it's really cool to see. But Rise just moves in, takes out the rest of Spire Academy, and now we're to the top 15. And if they're turning their sights onto the mill, it's likely that they'd like to go ahead and take some shots at Tripods.
Be able to hold on the Tripods to their position. For LBJ, it's a bit different. Remember, the evac tower that we mentioned earlier now has taken them onto the ridgeline, still not actually in zone, and still with teams at their back. Now that K6 is separated from the rest of his team, moving back up this hill is going to be a journey fraught with peril, as many other squads will be rotating out of Ceto at the same time. Even right now, with people shooting him in the back, K6 comes up and has to face off against another squad and a catwall. LBJ are caught in the crossfire and have no good place to play.
Well, you got TSM Max guarding the wall with the Dark Veil up top and north, and they are so healthy and have the advantage for this. But because for their rotation, no one is directly ahead of them in the open. They're all occupying the buildings just ahead. So if they can utilize these rocks for cover in the meantime, it's very unfortunate that they went ahead and burned that Dark Veil because they might need it for rotational purposes later.
Now on the low ground, Try should have that very same Dark Veil. They aren't going to use it just yet, instead picking up kills as everyone's forced in the exodus from Ceto, and Smoke comes just in time with a few rocks to play around. Try have made it into the ring. LBJ, unfortunately, have not.
What started with a fight with Los Licks will end here now. 13 squads remaining, and Try needs to keep vying head forward. They're going to nail out here by the rock and the bamboo, but that's just going to open the doors because TSMX is moving straight for it. Senvi and Amigo, a duo, but will be immediately punished for extending out so far.
That was so crazy to watch with TS Mex deciding to swing this, and as a duo, Enemigo has to fight a 3-person swing, and even with low health, that is nearly impossible. TS Mex go down. Shry absorb the push perfectly.
They're doing it amazingly and picking up a lot of eliminations by doing that. So they know what they are doing, and if they know they have to win, they are laying it out. I would rather start on game number 1, vying for everything that we can get, and not move into the latter half of this series not having enough eliminations. But for Temper, who are just outside of this zone pool, which is kind of atrocious because it encompasses a lot of that mountain, we're going to have basically one of the worst rotations, as our top 10 teams will collapse upon each other there.
We discussed this as soon as we saw a checkpoint zone, but very difficult to get into, very difficult to get out of, and even outside of checkpoint, the ring is already starting to do some crazy things. Teams like Rise and Tripods actually have a pretty good rotation, which is exactly why they're fighting each other right now. Rise needs to make sure they hold on to this rock, and having lost Silent, now they need to fend off a push from Tripods, who should know that they can take space after having knocked one.
Well, they immediately get Silent back up, and that was so beautiful. Now fighting forward, utilizing the Bangalore smokes, and Detox pushing in, grabs a knock, immediately turns tides, and Tripods have fallen before they could even stabilize. Yes, they held the mill, but Rise has evicted them out of it, and we turn our eyes to Donut Shop, who rails last alive, but will fall.
The exodus from checkpoint, ever difficult, ever punishing. With Weave having lost one, they may still be able to make it into some semblance of zone. On the outside of this, though,
Ooh.
there are some shenanigans happening. Try go down. Weave still alive on the inside, but looking at that ring, Drop In Gaming, where have they gone? They've made their move up towards the north end of this bridge. Temper still need to have, ultimately, a catalyst wall in order to make that even possible, but somehow Drop In managed to get to the edge of this bridge without attracting the attention of any other squad in the area.
And you have to think, it was not easy for Drop In Gaming to maintain that building and then take priority immediately for that zone. For teams like Weave, like Temper, they have to get out of this. There's only 30 seconds left for Weave to just pop out of this straight onto Temper. And do you think Temper knows that they are behind there?
They should have an idea. I'm not sure, but we're gonna find out. Drop In's central position certainly attracting some attention from Rise, but this I don't believe has been spotted by anyone. 9 Lies just now taking some shots out towards Rise. Do have a rotation that can take them either straight into Rise, cutting short their own journey, or directly into Drop In Gaming. Weave's move out was spotted by a bit of Ferro Fluid, and they'll go down. But they had no choice, as the ring is starting to close, and they were going to be dead either way.
Yeah, and now this rotation here for Temper, only they can do this with the Dark Veil, the Bangalore smokes, trying to hide cover, and they've even got a care package that was utilized earlier in front of them, but I don't think that's going to be enough. They're pushing straight into Drop In Gaming and trying to contest for this bridge, which will immediately open it up to Board and SK2. So I think the final fight for the large majority of this is going to happen now. We're seeing a lot of ultimates get expended, while 9 Lies is actually coming out of ratting to get in on this, and Stunny will take the brunt of the action.
The rest of 9 Lies knew this was happening, but Laser hiding behind a tree is going to pop out and take out a few chunks from Temper. In comes the third party, and Temper goes down. Drop In Gaming still alive, even having lost Stunny as they sit under the bridge. They take out Board. 3 squads left. SKTT2 likely needing to take on Rise, who sit on the other end of this. Drop In Gaming are down, and it's Rise from the top of the bridge. SKTT2 underneath it.
And this is so important for Rise. We already set the stakes. They have it north of 9 eliminations. They took Drop In Gaming's position the moment they got into that engagement, and now they hold the top of the bridge. But Avexis needs to stay up here, but will fall.
Down.
It's that Bangalore smoke out just in time. They're trading out, but it's going to be Silent last alive in this situation, and connects. Can he make it happen? No, it's SKTT2.
But it was by a hair. The perfect R99 tracking out of Rise almost won them that game. A well-deserved victory from SKTT2, who make their way in following drop-in gaming step by step as our only composition to be running Rampart Loba, and a fantastic way to clutch up that end game, especially considering that they had no verticality to get on that bridge. They didn't have Horizon who could just drop a gravity lift and take her entire team up. They had to approach that from the low ground, the most punishing angle, and still took out Rise doing it.
That is the craziest thing, honestly. I mean, if anything, they could have used Loba's tactical, the bracelet, and just yeeted it, but that's not what they did. They walked up on them immediately, and honestly, that was crazy. Honestly, after like shell shocked. I can't even say anything because I know if I was in that situation and I looked back at my R9 shots, I would be like, and my team gets wiped. I'm like, I'm watching him. He is probably won, actually won. Knowing that I missed out on that win by like 2 HP is wild. But let's pull up the standings. Let's look at it because I'm gonna let you talk because I need to like drink some water and come down from that moment.
Well, it's a well-deserved victory from SKTT2, but it should come as no surprise that Rise, having made their way in from the western side of the ring, pick up a lot of points doing it, having taken out Tripods on the way and Evolution, turning that into kills on drop-in gaming as well. This was a really nice, clean path from them into the ring that took them through the edge in such a way that they were always on the front foot. Drop-in gaming, great zone play, a 13-point start. It ain't bad, but yeah. Remember, they just need to be above 8th. They just need to be above 8th.
Which is a solid start for them. I think if you want to be above 8, you should aim for that 8 to 10 mark. That will put you kind of near that top 5 per game. And I think that's going to be really solid. But for the boys who contested Checkpoint, obviously going out with a 0, joining Evolution, the Crypt, Spire Academy, and Konichiwawas, which is that like a play on like Chihuahuas at this point? But I love it for them.
I think it is.
That's super cute.
You know what's funny is that in their Battlefy name they have Konichiwawa apostrophe S, so it's as if they like belong to a Konichiwawa. I don't know what that means, if it means anything or I'm reading too far into it, but let it stand.
Let it stand. Dia does not read too far into anything. Let's be real here. Definitely not the analyst of us two. But regardless, congratulations to SKTT2 for taking the win here in map number 1. And Rise getting that close second, finding a good chunk of eliminations. Because honestly, 9 placement points means 10 eliminations, which is a massive game number 1. So I guess all that's left to do is cut to a quick break, and then we're going to jump to map number 2 on Stormpoint when we get back. Welcome back, everyone. It's the Apex Legends Global Series preseason qualifier, our last one for North America, and SKTT2 just took home a massive victory in game number 1. But to no surprise, Rise did incredible as well. So before things get settled down, let's go ahead and pull up those standings really quick for anyone who might have just joined us here on the broadcast to kind of set the stakes here, Dia. And it was a really intense first game. I actually suffered for a little bit of brain lag considering how good it was.
I think that's understandable. The macro out of this game, I was just talking about it in the break, but was really fantastic from Rise, Nine Lives, and Drop In Gaming. Watching their play through the whole, like, awkward mill area and the way they all approached it individually, so good. SKTT2 really coming up on that and decimating as well with, I think, what a lot of people would not hesitate to call an unorthodox composition. They are one of very few teams that feels comfortable running Loba Rampart, and that also requires a great grasp on where you're able to set up. It's a team that has a lot of difficulty rotating. If you're not reading the zones right, they crushed it. They played their timings perfectly and made great use of both the Rampart and the Loba in order to make it into the end game and to win it on top of all of that.
I love that you highlight that because when I think back to just slightly before all of the players look to take on the bridge as we're kind of gearing up for character select in map number 2, it kind of started with Spire Academy, right? They rotated through the ring outside of where tripods were at the mill and tried to get just north of that, which would have set them up for success in that end game. But I think they had just tried to do it a little bit too early in the game to go ahead and make that happen because they had too many eyes on them during that. But for all the teams that kind of made that end game so successful, was wild. And as soon as Nine Lives kind of pulled down, Rise essentially mirrored them and took their spot. Enough about that because it's game number 2. Our players are locked and loaded in the dropship, is getting that final Pro League spot. The top of the leaderboard today. Well, only time will tell, but I'm looking for the boys. Are they going back to checkpoint?
I suspect that they are, but it's really difficult to tell with Evolution being so confident on whatever contests they need to take, taking on Drop In earlier, and of course Nine Lives jumping on to the boys. Looks like we've got Nine Lives making a return up towards Lightning Rod, but they haven't done it alone. Boys dropped here as well, and we've got yet another fight right off of drop between these two rosters. This could be the thing that lifts boys up and takes them into Pro League with a few more KP, but over time, Nine Lives could be the thing that knocks them out.
Well, it's really interesting because when you think of Lightning Rod, right, it is infinitely closer to where Thunderwatch was, right? And Nine Lives has already decided that they don't want to push further into Lightning Rod. They'd rather take the free Thunderwatch and just loot forward, prioritize on that, because even though they have 2 blue shields and they can turn around knowing that they just won that contest against the boys in checkpoint, but as we pull up the map, Dia, the crypt immediately moved into the checkpoint that Nine Lives and the boys had already taken.
Which is a really smart move. Like, I mean, you see checkpoint empty. It's got 2 beacons this game and a bunch of crates to be able to pick up with your support and or assault legends. It's a great start for them, make no mistake. Really happy with what the crypt have done to adapt in the macro, and means they'll get a head start on the next ring that is going central again. I'm not expecting this one to pull towards checkpoint, likely a little bit more towards perhaps Drop In Gaming, who have landed over at Ceto this time around.
Ooh, nice position there for the evac tower. Really love that to get you some extra height and just jump over that. I'm gonna have to steal that for later when I decide to grind Apex. And yeah, we gotta get some games in, by the way.
We do. These promo matches, they are so rough. I don't know if you know this, but I typically solo queue, and so like I just get into my promo matches and I'm like, all right, well, are we full sending it off drop, or do we get to win a game today?
Never. We are always full sending, especially if you're solo queuing, and there's no way anyone's getting comms. But you know who is getting comms? Our teams here gearing up for Pro League. As your Map 1 winners, SKT2 are completely kitted out here once again on that Rampart Loba. Now, I really do love the utilization of Bangalore. I think makes you so viable right now. And to be able to just smoke out and disengage or really stave off another push is so vital for them. But with a lot of teams making their way over here towards Barometer, this could be quite interesting because it is navigating that southernmost point of where that circle is. A lot of teams have decided to fight just north of the main area, Drop in Gaming being one of them, who also has impeccable macro.
Yeah, this is a great position to play in the end game. In the mid game, it's pretty tough though, and so I like the expenditure, even if it's early, of a wall by drop in gaming. But let's compare and contrast for a second. SKTT2, a team that we also talked about having really good macro, has pulled off something that I don't think a lot of people will recognize in being able to evac tower from over by Jurassic straight into the arguably center of what'll be a barometer zone, in the sense that they took the evac and then landed directly on top of it. They encountered no teams, nor did they ever have the opportunity to encounter teams. And with Rampart Loba, that's especially useful. You can't be running around like drop-in gaming, dancing and hoping that you're able to survive with bank smokes and catwalls. You have to play it perfectly, and SKTT2 absolutely did.
That they did, and now we turn our tides to Evolution, who is yet again looking to get into early game skirmishes. Coming out of their drop spot POI and heading straight towards Barometer, they have ran into several teams, Board being one of them. And they found them in the open, and even though Vudo isn't really connecting on a good chunk of damage here, it's more so just pushing them away and gives Evolution a chance to take this building in that next zone and kind of think about, hey, where do we want to go from here? Do we want to hold out in this building and see who's going to be rotating out of the mill or Ceto station? Or do we kind of want to focus on another POI that may potentially have crafting or look for potential beacons?
Evolution's whole thing right now, definitely preying on scuffed rotations, on teams that are just trying to improvise it as they go along. This ridgeline is ultra punishing, and as you've already mentioned with Board, we're seeing some teams suffer at the hands of it. Temper are not playing that game at all. Their rotation in from the south takes them straight into Barometer, though likely not into the end zone. There is some small chance that the ring pulls here, but very, very low percentage. Instead, it's a temporary spot that they'll hold on, and they will get to improvise a little bit later once they have more information on where the ring close is going.
And here is that engagement that is just inevitable. It's Nine Lives and the boys, both taking Lightning Rod, pushing Nine Lives out earlier to Thunderwatch, but this fight has continued down towards Launchpad, essentially mirroring each other all over the map. And Laser is going ahead, charging up that Sentinel, getting geared up and ready to do some damage. And honestly, a charged up Senti is one of my favorite things and also my worst nightmare.
Yeah, when you get the one player in your pub's lobby that's landing every shot with a charged Sentinel, it can be pretty trying, and that's what Nine Lives are attempting to unleash onto the boys, who are still being gatekept from the ring. Nine Lives, however, are walking right into LBJ ahead of them. They can hide in Lagoon, and could end up messing up both teams' plans.
And this is very typical from what we saw in map number 1. We had a center ring that kind of went up towards checkpoint and all of that, right? But LBJ and Los Licks were just rotating similarly from the same portion of the map. So for Nine Lives and the boys to do such a gnarly rotation south towards Launchpad, of course they're going to run into LBJ and Los Licks. So they need to keep their eyes on that. But Los Licks have already made their way over to the pylon. And as we look at this beautiful lay of the land from Barometer, the zone pool comes in and we are going deeper into Barometer. So for all of the players that got that ring information from the consoles and saw that the rings essentially intercepted each other and overlapped down on that southernmost Barometer side, pool paid off. And I think a lot of people, when you are looking to kind of gear up and get your macro on point, whether you're watching a lot of VODs, watching the way the rings pull, and you just play a lot and you see this, yeah, I think it's something that's interesting to talk about because now you have to gamble on where it's going to go. You take your bet because they were already touching that it makes the most sense to go towards Barometer.
This, however, makes very little sense. The boys are crafting, and we've got a full send onto them. LBJ evac tower outside of zone with almost no time left on the clock. They're going to full send it on to boys. Pick up 2 KP immediately. And Nine Lives, who were watching this from over by Pylon, get to go, well, our job is done. Let's get out of here. And we'll see if LBJ make it into the ring, because there's not a lot of time left, and they themselves can be gatekept from this position. They've already expended an evac tower, and they have to go through Nine Lives and Los Licks in order to make it through, back to the ring, and into Jurassic.
I'd imagine we're going to see a lot of atypical things in these games, knowing that a lot of these teams have to vie for the easiest of KP, the best KP that they can get. But it's a risk of taking that rotation out of the ring to find easy KP to get gate kept. And now Evolution has to find themselves into the ring. Before that, want to take this engagement on to Donut Shop. They had set themselves up outside of Barometer, looking for any teams that are rotating in, which would be enabling them to find KP. Now, granted, this is a team that's already qualified for Pro League based on points. They've essentially locked it in. But what they are going to be able to do is kind of not allow other teams to make it in. And Davis Wave, Rails, and J-Trips now have to fight forward through Urice, through Vudo, and they've already taken a large chunk of damage. Now, supplying back up before they gear into that fight. J-Trips does have the Rolling Thunder for this if he needs it, though.
Los Licks make their way not quite onto the top of Barometer, but right underneath it. Should be safe down here, as a drop is, in normal game circumstances, extremely unlikely, but we've already seen some pretty unlikely things happening in today's games. Next round starting to close. This one going to hurt a little bit more. LBJ still sat outside of zone from when they sent it onto the boys. But for many of our teams that were playing around the edge, like Nine Lives and Los Licks, we're starting to get into zone, because you don't want to sit in the red once it's round 2 and beyond, because from round 3, it's just impossible.
Ooh, keep an eye right now on Donut Shop, who just hit that rotation above Evolution. They do take a chunk of damage. Rails just barely getting there, about half HP, but they do make it. Now, kind of rotating toward this area. Oh, this is the tough spot, right? Tripods land Cenote Cave, and they have been able to just hang out outside of the spider tunnel, kind of to the left of Barometer, but they're not going to be alone here if they decide to push towards Cenote.
Next syringe going to come in from Rails. A single 30-30 shot would do them in, and J-Trips is dropping meds to make this happen. A very difficult move to go through Cenote, but I suppose taking the fight against Evolution for many is even harder. Rise have shown up on the hilltop, and they themselves may even be avoiding Evolution, though they haven't quite spotted the team on low ground yet. Avexis should ping this out soon, and Silent, who Rise have recently picked up going into this week, has made the roster ever better at fragging, if that was even possible. Seems to be doing just fine after game 1.
Laser over here with the Senti back out again. You can see we're going to have that Bangalore ultimate come this way. The Bloodhound scan connects, so we hit the grab lift. We throw out the Horizon ult and immediately chuck nades. That's my Horizon. That's how I want my Horizon to play. Throw the ult, throw the nades, and then try not to go down.
Nine Lives get so hard outflanked, though. Jomax makes their life a nightmare. With trades happening, however, there is a world where Nine Lives stick around. Try and make this engagement work as Dynasty gets back up onto the high ground, avoiding being outflanked themselves, and now has great position from which to fire down. Grav lift does make things a little bit more complicated. Dynasty does not have visuals. Skynade gonna go out, but at the same time that Die goes down, Skynade connects, almost takes out Scone.
Ooh, and this is going to be really tough. Nine Lives do fall, which gives Try the time to go ahead and hit that reset. But with that zone about to start kicking through, they're going to need to pick up the pace. And Rise themselves have actually navigated around Evolution. And they're just kind of hanging out by this bridge, toggling with the idea of throwing down the evac tower to hit a move. They will need to go through with it. They do. Now they have to jump once again away from Evolution, which seems like a lot of teams are trying to do. They do not want early game engagements against Urice.
LBJ, previously, reminder, sent it hard out of zone to take out a team, have gone down. 17 teams remain, and Tripods, who we have barely had the time to speak of today, are making it into Barometer by a hair. They haven't even touched the next zone yet, but should be doable. Some smokes still left for Gent, and a whole gravity cannon ahead of them to play. It is technically doable if they want to try and play by the gravity cannon, but they're not the only ones that may be settling for something like that.
Rise as well, pinging out. Hey, there's a wingman that's going to be in play, but for a lot of those teams that are still trying to get towards Barometer even further, Unleash is just on the skirts. They have to get in, and they are able to take out the crypt just barely.
That's not real.
But this is the cost of fighting when the zone is closing. And now Dino, last alive, but does turn around, eliminate Try, but will fall in the meantime. Thanks to Konichi Chihuahuas. I can't even say it.
The creeping barrage does it as well. Konnichiwas don't even peek out from the nut. They just take the kills and move on with their lives. They're the only squad to be positioned this far to the north, especially on the exit from Jurassic. We who are gatekeeping them should know this, but the center of the zone and the very place that so many teams predicted has already become pretty action-packed. Senvi moves it down onto the low ground. The Arc Star not going to connect onto anything, but certainly TS Mechs showing presence around the little bit of loot just below them. Do need to find a way to get creative and get their next position, because where Evolution are right underneath certainly has an easier time moving into the next ring.
About 30 seconds left on that ring before it starts to close, and as we think about the teams that have such solid positioning, it's going to be SKT T2, your map 1 winners, who are pretty much poised to perfection with that Loba Rampart. They have a building that is like one of the most vital ones, and they've been able to set up a good chunk of walls inside to maintain a really tough kind of siege, right? They're not going to be able to just go up in there and take them out, but Los Licks, just on the very much outskirts, will have to move forward. Now, granted, Oversleepers and Temper are nearby for them, and with so many rings that are very similar to this one in Barometer, we've seen how this goes, and Los Licks are starting to hit the move. And I like that they're doing it early, Dia, because now they don't have to go at the very last minute when the other two teams will.
Gotta wonder what exactly the plan is from the low ground. They do have a horizon, but what they don't have is any sort of safety. Den Pride goes down, and the early rotate, well, it looks good. Gets them out-angled in every way. Yozi still does have both teammates up, and Arcstar gets thrown in on top of them with Den Pride down, and more teams converging. They may not have gone down yet, but Los Licks have certainly sentenced themselves to a very difficult life. Fortunately, with Chick is still in the game, Horizon Gravity Lift always an option should they need to get out of the low ground. Of course, assuming that they get picked back up.
That is the tough part about being the first one to go, though. All eyes will be on you. It's very akin to back in the day when Valkyrie was in the mix and everyone was ulting at the very last minute. It was always the first team that ulted that got kind of singled out, and unfortunately, Los Licks will fall with Spire Academy here down to just 2. Not sure if they're going to be able to save their fallen member here, because we do have 50 seconds, but still 11 squads remaining. And just as I say that, Crook is able to land a beautiful thermite to finish off Netty, and the push comes, and Aragu, last standing, drops to the low ground. But we saw what happened to Los Licks when they were down. But here's the thing about it, they have shield swaps, they have that, and now you are just be able to get out of the mix as everyone decides to int on each other above them.
Yeah, I mean, on the top, Drop-In Gaming are dealing with tripods who have completely sent it, taking out Drop-In Gaming, with Spire Academy and Konichiwawas dropping as well. 8 teams left. Take a look at the next zone as well. Our early rotators, SKTT2, will have to make their way out into open ground, but with tripods having just rinsed the south end of this ring, they may be able to take control of one of very few defensible positions left.
And they will just have to rotate a little bit into that next zone. So turn your sights onto Rise, who are just in front of them. But the issue with where Rise has positioned themselves is Evolution has decided to fully push up into that. Now tripods, they just need to keep Gent up, focus on the healing, just not let it happen. But unfortunately, with all the teams that are looking to make a push on this, it's not going to be possible. Evolution is just that good. Their mechanics for fighting in the end game, and yeah, they are barely able to take out some members of tripods before they get full sent. This is the risk of the chaotic endgames that will happen. And even though tripods able to clear out their side of the zone, they will fall.
Rise, yet another team to inherit this height, but as we talked about, one of the last defensible positions in this ring, and they've made it theirs. Rise, who still have all 3 members, unlike SKTT2, who sit on the low ground with very little cover, almost nothing to do, and taking a long-range gunfight with TS Max.
Ooh. Rise still up. A lot of interesting things here. Even your map 1 winner still on that right side of the ring. They just have that rock though. And you're right, TSMX, they have such a good position. Able to just finish out there on Evolution, turn the sides, but Talus completely goes down and will be fooled. Now Enemigo and Senvi will have to carry the torch as a duo.
SKTT2 could genuinely win this game. I know that it sounds crazy because they're a duo and there are only 3 teams left, but TS Mex are a duo, and TS Mex are sat right next to Rise. Sending it across the open ground wouldn't be easy for Rise, especially not once TS Mex get back into position, and the probability that these 2 teams run face first into each other as soon as the zone starts closing, it's pretty darn high.
I honestly kind of believe you, right? Because Rise and TSMX will likely move into each other prior to SKT2 getting in on that. So you can see right now, utilizing Bangalore smokes, they're covering it up, and here comes SKT2. They have covered the distance and are going to make this an all-out brawl for the end.
SKTT2 having moved up though, opens up Rise to swing around the side, now controlling one corner where TS Mex controls SKTT2, send it onto TS Mex, taking out the duo, securing themselves second place. There is a trade of knocks, but having picked up second, it looks like these 2 squads will be trading places in game number 2. In game 1, SKTT2 take the win. In game 2, it's Rise.
Well, if there's something to be said, it's clear that these 2 teams have their macro and rotational abilities on point to keep fighting out in the very end. But congratulations to Rise for coming out on top. But Dia, like you mentioned, we were talking about the open ground in between the 2. And I would love to kind of break that down a little bit more because I believe it was actually SKTT2 that was smoking out Rise the entire time toward the end to allow them to push on to the duo and find those eliminations that were so vital to them. They were like, yeah, okay, look, if we're going to play for second as a duo, knowing that we can't take the trio up top, let's go ahead and full send the other duo and take them down unexpectedly.
It was a really gutsy move because you remember I was talking hypotheticals about, oh,
Yep.
well, what if these 2 teams fight, then SKTT2 can take it. They went, you know what? Or we could kind of guarantee ourselves 2 points, take our fates into our own hands and make it happen. That they absolutely do. And by doing so, you only really miss out on 1 additional point that getting first would have gotten you in this case, making up the rest with KP. They're not going to fall too far behind the leaderboards, but Rise should take a definitive lead after this game, which, if we remember that of Rise and SKTT2, both are in positions where they have to win today in order to get a Pro League spot, isn't going to make SKTT2 very comfortable.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. Let's actually go ahead and pull up those standings and see just how it paid off for Rise and SKTT2. And honestly, they're still incredibly close, but for Rise, taking that final win there at the end, not only did they get the 3 extra placement points, but they got the 2 eliminations from the duo of SKTT2. So putting 4 points between the 2 and Temper kind of rounding out the top 3. But those 2 teams in first and second place are working on their points disparity. And at this point, after 2 games, with it being 14 points between second and third, they are really just in another league. Now, granted, anything can happen because it is only after 2 games.
That it is, and with only 1 more left on Stormpoint, I do wonder whether both these teams and the macro that they've demonstrated during our first 2 will actually hold over in between maps, because it tends to be that that's not the case at all, and that good macro on one map doesn't necessarily translate. You have to have very different reads, and you can't just be relying on your instincts, but rather hard data that you've collected over the course of time. It is a curiosity that I have, but 1 more map on Stormpoint means that I gotta wait till I discover it.
Speaking of wait, I think a lot of us are going to have to wait because we're going to cut to a quick break. And when we come back, that final match on Stormpoint. Here we go. Our final match on Storm Point is about to be underway. Dia, so far, after the first 2 games of our final preseason qualifier, what is it looking like, right? We were talking about the storylines just ahead of map number 1, and a lot of our teams are in that dire must-win scenario in order to grant themselves access to Pro League come January. But for our teams that have, you know, that liability on their shoulders, how have things been working out for them?
Well, I want to pull up the standings just to illustrate things as we go through, because this is where it gets a little complicated in terms of the points. We already know that 9 Lives and Evolution are fine. They're going to Pro League whether they win or whether it be by points. Right now, it's looking like it'll be by points, but that's life. You're going anyway. Drop In Gaming need to be getting at least 8th in order to make it into Pro League. They're sitting at 4th right now. Things are looking good. Oversleepers need to be getting into at least 8th right now. They're at 12th. It's doable, but it isn't looking good. Boys need to get at least 7th. They're in 19th, and 9 Lives are sending it on them every chance they get. I'll be honest, it's not looking great, Tiff.
The thing about it, yeah, you're right. It's not looking great. The boys have a solid donut on the board, and it's not necessarily a good donut either. And there are a lot of donuts that I like. Look, okay, but not that
Donuts
one.
are good.
But when you look at the points disparity between 8th place and 19th place, it is 10 points. 10 points is a solid game. Even if you're just finding yourself inside the top 3 and you have a couple place or of eliminations, that's going to get you there, right? But the first thing that the boys have to do is they have to survive the 9 lives, because those 9 lives are heading straight for them each and every match. And as we gear up for match number 3, our final one on Storm Point, the boys' saga continues. Can they survive 9 lives?
It's been a difficult run so far. You know, last game it even looked like they were going to do it. And you know what? I guess you could argue that they did. But it was at that point that LBJ took things into their own hands and served them up another 0-point game. It has been a cruel, cruel day for boys. But this is something that, as we talked about, people had questions going into today as to whether this would happen. It wasn't for no reason. Boys have not just put themselves in a position to qualify, but oftentimes in semifinals, quarterfinals, and preseason qualifiers past, they have done so by actively cutting out other teams in the semis and quarters, landing on them to deny them points. And it seems to me that some of that attitude has come back in the form of some vengeance from other teams. And who's to blame them?
That's what happens, right? You just kind of start poking, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And as you can see, even with the plane line that we get going from north to south, 9 lives and boys get just a little bit more time together over there in Lightning Rod. But whatever could you expect? But I would imagine that Lion Lies will similarly move towards Thunderwatts yet again as the boys kind of take that northernmost high area of Lightning Rod, because picking up a flatline alternator isn't bad, but for some reason 9 Lives just usually get gifted shields right off rip.
They really do. They've got some sort of magic working with them. Now, benefit to the boys here as their own landing this time comes with Crafter, where previously Nine Lives were able to back off onto Stormcatcher and crafting themselves. That's not true this time around, and boys are the ones that have the edge of being able to sit in Lightning Rod, craft if they want, and maybe even take a bit of a different rotation. Last time they went all the way down south. This time, if they want to try and play edge, we could even see them moving into Zeus Station, following Unleash on a rotation. But I would be doing anything at this point to rid myself of 9 lives ahead of me.
At that point, what do you do if your boy's trying to rid yourself of 9 lives? If you go up to Zoo Station, they're going to just follow you. And then you're putting Unleash at risk as well, which is totally fine. We don't care at that point because we just want the boys, we just want to get them away from 9 lives. And Unleash would just be collateral damage in that mix. So prioritizing making sure that they're getting their shields up for whichever journey they decide to send it on. And I just see a wild Charmander going down. And I think I said that last time. And every time I think about it, I think about how much I play Pogo and how many shiny Charmanders I have. And you know
Ooh.
what, Oversleepers, I love this for you.
Very nice. What is a... You know what? I'll ask that question later. Not an Apex-related question. Oversleepers' move right into the center of Lagoon actually has put them in what is evidently, by their minimap, a great spot for zone. We haven't actually caught where the next ring is leading us just yet, but it does look like we're going a bit more central. We'll include a bit of Pylon and Jurassic in this round, and perhaps even pull further south and into Launchpad. All these are, of course, potential endings based on partial data, but that's what all these teams are working off of.
Exactly. That's kind of the hedging of the bets. And so far, a lot of our teams have been pretty good at calling it, except for the checkpoint zone. That one did throw a couple teams
Mhm.
for a loop there, as to be expected. And I love that you made the comparison between checkpoint and kind of those geyser zones. But for the teams that are making their way, it will be boys who decide to push through the choke and fight towards Command Center, which is respectable for them because that's essentially where Try lands command center. And as they kind of poke their heads out, well, that looks to be the engagement. Radiant transfer coming through and at a well poised time.
Try don't seem intent on not even giving this up, retreating, anything. They are full on pushing into boys, making sure that they do not feel comfortable repeating this action. Not that they'd have the chance to, as this was our last game on Stormpoint, but thinking about this critically as well. Try also desperately needs some points. Is there, again, one of our teams that needs to win or go home empty-handed, not making it into Pro League after this preseason qual. So the very fact that they're getting aggressive on boys, pushing them out and towards Zeus Station, it's a very active move to collect what they absolutely need in order to make Pro League, because there are no other choices.
That is the tough part for a lot of our teams that are needing that must-win situation. We saw it happen in EMEA today, just hours before this broadcast. A lot of teams just laying it all on the line. At the end, it was LVH who came out on top. But we're still looking for those final teams from North America to send through. Inspire Academy have yet again found themselves in such a dire situation in the early game, already losing out on Origu. Nettie having to hit that vital med kit, which will take them 8 seconds to get back up to speed.
And Baku's done a great job of keeping other teams off of them for now, but how long can it really last with smokes expiring and Catalyst wall going down? You lose the ability to cut off sight lines and thus to hold the position. Elsewhere, however, Donut Shop are going up against Rise. Rise have seen this coming. What looked like a disengage from them has very quickly turned into a re-engage onto Height. They don't have access to the top of this octagon just yet, but Detox is covering the sides with Bloodhound. They should be able to walk through the blind just fine, especially with Beast of the Hunt active.
A lot of ultimates being expended here and still trying to get a good line of sight. Briefly stunned up for just a moment, but is able to withstand. Bloodhound scan connecting, which will highlight a lot for the teams, but still takes him a little bit off guard there. Able to maintain some semblance of shield and doubles down and capitalize on the initial damage, but will still falter. But was it enough for his teammates to deal the rest of the finishing blows to Donut Shop? And it was. The quick reset coming in, Detox back on their feet, and Rise live to fight another fight.
That I'm sure they will. If anything, Rise have been so good at finding fights on edge and finishing them very quickly today. Having picked up one win already and a second place, got plenty more to do, especially with this being, again, our last Storm Point map of the day. Knock coming out of the sky means that Oragu unfortunately goes down again. We get the kill point off of that, and they get to pick up the rest of Spire Academy as a bonus.
Well said, and Drop in Gaming, they will fall additionally, but this is where I think the quality of our lobbies, it will eventually start collapsing after this halfway point. You were mentioning our Storm Point games will likely still be all good. It's World's Edge that might get a little sloppy, but for so many teams that are estimating that we're gonna be more moving towards Pylon, we have at least 7 teams navigating this. And this is one of the newer POIs from the recent season that I've fallen in love with. And knowing that there are so many different positions to be able to play, it can hold a lot of teams. We've occupying the top center spire of Pylon, which will be a very nice power position. The only issue with this is I'm surprised they don't have piercing spikes on some of the positions by the zip ups.
Instead, they've opted certainly for control of the doors, and as you say, the zip's not really a point of control for them since they're focusing so much elsewhere on the map. Los Leaks take an engagement, are going to win it, knocking out another squad very quickly as LBJ made the exact same rotation this game they did last game with a little bit more time on the zone. 15 teams left, which puts everybody in placement point territory, and Los Leaks feeling pretty nice right now. Should be able to meander their way into zone at their leisure, having cleared this entire side of the map. Nobody's remaining left at Launchpad, although there are a few teams that will be continuing to rotate down from the north. Teams like Nine Lives and Unleash.
Hear me out. Hear me out, Dia. I just want to let
I'm
you
hearing.
know the fact that you just used the word meander makes me very happy because as an SJM fan who reads a lot of books like ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, she prioritizes the utilization of meander so
Does she?
much. Does, and I've usually noticed that a lot. So I like utilizing it in these casts too. They meander their way through the topography of the luxurious Storm Point. Just tell me a story, Dia. Tell me a story.
Apex Legends is a poetic game. It's, what can we do but use a few fancy words here and there, and that's to describe what has gone on towards, as we said, the eastern side of the map has given Los Leaks a lot of space, but it's going to be very constrained quite quickly as their move up to the choke point and ultimately the height leading into Pylon is one where they'll have to deal with not just Unleash, not just Nine Lives, but also Oversleepers who are sitting in Pylon proper. Tripods make their way in through the south. Credit to them. Great way to move into Pylon. Not a lot of teams rotate in from the south.
That is very true. And honestly, tripods have put themselves in some very good positions for endgame, but have not been able to maintain it. Speaking of that, in particular, map number 1, taking the mill from early on. The zone pulls out a checkpoint towards outside of mill. They should have a good walk up, but unfortunately did not make it to that end game. So the call and where they need to play from are good. We just need to see, will the execution be on point here in map number 3?
Unleash start moving up to the choke point that we talked about earlier, cutting off the sightlines of Nine Lives with an expertly placed smoke. It won't be easy for them, but speaking of things that have not been easy, the boys are starting to move in, and they don't know it, but we certainly do. Rise are waiting on the inside of this transition to Jurassic. This would be devastating for the boys to go down to a rat play like this.
Look, there is a really disgusting area that you can actually rat in on this lower level. I don't know if it got patched, but I got one clipped by a rogue Octane here, and I have never forgotten about it. It is a core memory at this point. So we'll see what happens here for the boys as they make a move on Rise.
I mean, we've got 15 squads left. The boys have officially secured 1 point today. To get it cut short, in their third game, that would be pretty rough. You can see even they're like, there's something's going on here, surely. Smoke on the entrance does let them move on forward. They don't actually have data just yet. No scans as the boys move up onto high ground, instantly get swung on, and Forelli gets chunked for about 100 HP.
Look, you don't smoke an entry and then immediately push to where the team is if you aren't already suspecting someone ratting. But regardless of you suspecting that team in there, the Rise team just completely pieces apart boys, and they have fallen yet again. And knowing that there was not a lot of teams in that nearby vicinity, they prioritized getting them back up on the feet, and the quick reset comes through. But you know what also comes through? Evolution, who has set themselves up for yet another engagement. And with still just north of a minute on the clock for this ring to be able to go through, they have plenty of time to take this.
I can't believe that Rise not only pull off the quickest gravitational blender 3v3 in history, but turn around onto Evolution and are getting aggressive after it. Detox taking to the low ground, does have an angle on Panic in just a moment with Silent and Avexis taking high ground. 12 squads can turn into 11 very quickly, especially after cracks like that. Detox does go down. Avexis almost misses, but does turn around, taking out Panic with a little bit of HP left, dodging in and out of the knockdown shields. Evolution will claim their prize of 3 KP, but it was so close.
It was very close. I mean, they pushed into that transition, pulled out of it, and they chased. But for 9 Lives, who know boys is already out of this lobby, have turned their tides into the rest of the teams that are now occupying the pylon, trying to find a position inside of here that cannot be overtaken or easily shot through, especially on this bottom circle area, because it kind of all connects through. It's tough. But out here on the outskirts, navigating between these supply bins and just through the inside is all right for now. But as I say for now, a lone member of TS Max has come out of behind of the reinforced door and laser. They've got their sight set on you.
That's a lot of damage. That is several damage. Don't mind if I do. Laser jumps on up. Almost gets taken down in the sky. A single bullet connecting and 4 flesh at that. Not really a safe place to play for 9 Lives, but they are working with whatever they can. Thank God nobody's rotating in from Jurassic yet, though Evolution let everybody know that they're on their way with a quick survey beacon scan. The ring will be pulling us out further towards the eastern side of the map. 9 Lives have worked so hard just to survive here in the west, and they're going back down for seconds.
Look, they're going to have to take this engagement and finish it off. They just run the risk of running into more teams. And I love that Evolution rotated out to grab that scan, because as soon as that scan comes through, it's just going to ping all over Pylon. They will be able to get that information that a couple of teams are outside of Pylon, but not by very far. 9 Lives, who have just been through the gauntlet of trying to exist. Wow, this really is a metaphor for my life at this point. But they have survived thus far, and so have I.
It's legit, like my list of accomplishments for 2023 survived. I saw that one earlier today. It resonated with me. And 9 Lives are hoping to put that very same accomplishment on their list. Mirroring tripods right now. They are right next to the only 2 squads that rotated in from the south. Tripods, and ultimately, as they move into the next ring, Los Licks, who lie right off to the east on the way to the next zone, where, might I add, SKTT2 has positioned themselves perfectly.
Yet again, 3 maps in a row, imagine. Evolution, though, they're going to take the evac tower and make their way over. TS Max, who was running into a lot of 9 Lives, just trying to stabilize as they kind of set their sights onto where they need to be. But for the teams that have already rotated in, it's going to be try. Los Licks hit the early rotation the moment they saw that ring pull, and now they will be vying up against each other. And Los Licks staying relatively healthy with already 2 members down, and there we go. They clean up try, and let me just tell you, Den Pride looking a lot like me in Apex with 6 assists. I can get 20 bomb assists by the end of my life. I'm guaranteeing it.
If only they had the medal for that. Temper.
They don't.
All right, I know. If only.
Rip.
Temper have survived, if only as a duo, and I'd be sad if I didn't mention SKTT2, for all their trouble, have picked up a Kraber in the meantime, and the sniper god himself, Trevstax, is at it yet again, behind the amped rampart cover. It's words that I should be a lot more used to saying. It's really making life difficult for those remaining in Pylon. A few shots left in it for certain. Almost every team still needing to make their way out of Pylon. Not a whole lot of places left to play, unless you count where SKTT2 are.
That is true. Temper have fallen, and now 9 Lives, who have survived thus far, looking to find another team. Laser drops down, tries to hit fire the Senti, but will in the meantime. And Dynasty grappling around like the typical Pathfinder, but unfortunately it will not be enough. We turn our sights to our final teams that have made their way out of Pylon and are getting a little crazy, right? This is why Rampart is so fun for these little buildings on the outskirts. You've got the walls, and trying to jump in between them can potentially lose out on a member early on, but they've done well so far, except for the tripods. They have fallen just outside the top 5.
Don't worry about it, guys. That is a Prowler and a Kraber, but you don't need to concern yourself with that. That was come by with completely legal means. Board go down very quickly after the Kraber shot connects, and credit to Trevstacks for landing yet another devastating shot. With 4 left and 4 squads, SKTT2 have 1 shot for each team they need to wipe.
Hear me out. Cobra also has a Prowler, so we're just going to highlight the benefits of having a Loba on your team and throwing down the black markets, because you can get 2 Prowlers and a Kraber, and if your macro's on point, you too can find yourself at the top of the leaderboard or near it.
We are going to see the challenges that this type of roster faces. Legend composition's been good so far, but their move in and now onto the low ground gives them no cover from above. No way to defend against squads that would otherwise take height and try and mess with them. They are doing a really good job to, of course, hold on to the little bit of ground that you can have down here in the water, but it's not comfortable because you are ever at the mercy of the crypt right above you.
Yeah, this is actually going to be really tough to hold. You've got a Rolling Thunder incoming, and Cobra still about a minute or so away from having their own ultimate. Granted, hopefully they'll have some ult accelerants, and you can see that Trev is basically holding Sheila out at the masses to make sure that they are ready. There is a team on the low ground alongside them. That's going to be TS Max. You have Low Slicks on the top. Be curious to see how this goes, because once that Sheila winds up, it is the scariest thing. You just have to have someone sacrifice themselves out.
Yeah, when you see the laser being held like that, it's a really nice tactical advantage for SKTT2. They don't actually have to expend bullets from Sheila, but the laser acts almost as Gandalf did in Lord of the Rings, simply saying, this line you shall not pass. TS Mex, you must go up and around us. Do not push, do not pass go, and certainly do not collect $200 unless they come in the form of Arc Stars. As another swing comes in, another nice use of the Loba Black Market to get more grenades and set SKTT2 up for the push of their lives. Trevstacks does get sucked back in by the black hole. Cap and Cobra needing to answer back. Behind the destroyed amped cover, Cap is going to try and get out to safety as the Crypt did push down, eliminating SKTT2, leaving themselves with just 1 team left to take on. Vera fights in a 1v1, but Los Licks from the side, where everybody had counted them out, end up coming over to steal away the win.
Look, and it was done well. And throughout that mid game, they had set themselves up for that zone. The moment they saw that pool, they rotated out from holding the mountain just on the outskirts of Pylon straight to where Tri was staying. And as soon as they won that engagement against Tri, they really had the longevity for endgame. And it was technically their game to win from that point on. All they had to do was fight forward, and fight forward they did.
I like the creativity from Crypt to move down, try and take the fight, knowing that there's another squad in the area, but they couldn't really find them. It worked. For the most part, getting second place is going to sting a little bit, especially knowing that they had jumped down into a squad that they should have been able to take, but really nice play, of course, from all of our top 4 squads, and especially Los Licks. I always love seeing a solo clutch up an end game. I got a lot of good things to say about most teams. SKTT2, running Rampart and Loba, have really taken my heart this time around, so I'm going to be a little hands-off till I'm asked about them, because I don't want to come off as biased. I'm biased towards good Apex Legends.
Well, I can ask about them shortly with you if you'd like. We'll pull up the standings and see how it paid off, and then we can, finesse that biasness, because, I mean, they're at the top of the leaderboard. Now, granted, it is a very close race between SKT, T2, and Rise. 3 points separating them. But when you look to Los Licks, who just won map number 3, our final match on Stormpoint before we head on to World's Edge, by the way. The points disparity has now grown. It was 14 after 2 maps, now still only 15. It is going to take a lot for anyone outside the top 2 to make a push. Now, we think about that because the majority of our lobby is in a must-win situation, so they need to get to that 50-point threshold and then some at this point, Dia.
With SKTT2 being the guardians of that, it does eliminate a lot of the other randomness that you might see in situations with other teams where suddenly they fall early, because SKTT2's whole playstyle is about making it into an endgame position and making themselves basically unassaultable until the late game, where they become gods of Apex Legends with multiple red weapons, with as many grenades and shields as they could want. That's how they've been playing so far for the late game scaling. And it's meant that not a lot of teams get the chance to cut their journeys short, unlike, say, teams like Rise, who could take a bad 3v3 early on and go down. Granted, they haven't, which is really impressive in its own right. We'll see what World's Edge holds.
Well, I guess that's all that's to be said as we move into our second half of our final preseason qualifier. You're right. What will World's Edge hold for our teams that are looking to find themselves up to the top of the leaderboard? Well, we'll just have to find out for this quick break. The Apex Legends Global Series preseason qualifier, our last one for North America, and it's the final half about to begin on World's Edge. I'm Spider Tiff, that's Dia, and we have been in a world of action so far for the games that we have witnessed. And Dia offline during the break said, "Oh, these have been some really good games for our final preseason qualifier." So Dia, did you jinx us or not as we move on?
I hope not. I really hope not, because Stormpoint has been surprisingly calculated. For the most part, we'll see Stormpoint be the place where things start to devolve a little bit and teams get a little crazy, a little fast and loose with the rotations. But this has been, especially from our top teams, really smart and measured and to a T. There was a moment of kind of weirdness from LBJ, but let's just say they wanted to get to a crafter and be done with it. From after that point, we've seen some great Apex Legends, and everything's been flowing really well. will World's Edge, the more typical, more calculated map, actually stay that way? Or as we get later into the series, will things start to devolve as teams realize that they need to pick up more and more points to make it to first, as so many must do in order to qualify to Pro League?
In order to qualify for Pro League, you're not wrong. SKT T2, 50 points, 3 points separating them and Rise. And they have been going the distance each and every game. And based off of how EMEA went earlier today, I'd imagine this one could go all the way to game 6 to decide who will be moving on from the top of the leaderboard. And then we will work on calculating the points. So for our first map on World's Edge, we have a relatively central plane line going from that southwestern side all the way to the northeast. But for our teams that are looking to separate out, you see Weave kind of dropping onto Mirage and taking all of Lava Fissure, that hot zone, going to Konichiwawas there in Countdown. I'm trying to look for the boys. They seem to be
Green.
poised and perfection over towards Tree, but look who's coming in like sharks in the water. It's Nine Lives. They have found out where the boys are, and they are going straight there.
That one actually gave me hope because boys did land alone, and then Nine Lives jumped in after them. Because of that late drop, it isn't the first 3v3 to kick off. In fact, it's far from it. We've got them breaking out all over the map. Tripods do start one themselves over in launch site, and a car off rip is not a bad thing. Unleashed do go down as our first squad to bite the dust, but the rest of these fights continue with Nick Merckx getting shot in the side and taken down. That's a 1-for-1, but Tripods are focused on finishing off the one member who was left just below.
And here we go. You can see it is against Spire Academy and Tripods. Gent a little bit low, but they are able to grab another knock. We just need to find the final member of Spire Academy, who I'd imagine would resurface just shortly as Gent plays Ring Around the Rosie, but jumps on top and 2v1 them immediately. Spire Academy will fall, but as we turn our tides back to the inevitable story between boys and Nine Lives, Cooper is down, Dynasty just a smidge of health, and a good grav lift there to really anchor off the stairs and allow them to get some heals in and focus on the reset. Kind of like a nice little pause in between this engagement, but honestly, Nine Lives really being like plankton out here, just constantly pushing after boys.
And now they've lost Cooper, and boys managed to recover on high ground. That is the first time that we can definitively say that boys managed to repel the Nine Lives push, have managed to secure their own POI for once. It is such a breath of fresh air for this roster who does need from this point on a lot of points in order to make up the massive gap that has emerged in the first couple of rounds. With 3 games already done, they're basically playing half a day at this point, but they got to make 7th or better. No two ways about it. If they want to make Pro League, boys have got to play through that very uphill battle.
The uphill battle, you mean the villain of Nine Lives at this point? Like, we're talking about this as a team knowing they need 7th or better. How do you avoid that? Because at once when that drop spot over at Tree, it looked safe. And then, you know, the high school bully comes back. And at that point, well, it's not happening. But for Weave, they are making their way just outside the choke on the edge of Ring, looking to take some engagements early on. For a lot of our teams that have set. Oh, this is quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's an odd place to play for the ring data that we know they have.
Yeah.
But if we want to take fights and want to cull teams specifically, like I guess Oversleepers and TS Mechs that'll come up from the south, then it's a good spot. Bit of an odd choice. There's a reason why we're hedging our bets, but we have the option to play over by Mirage Etoile, and perhaps that's something they have in mind for the late game.
It's actually a Loba ult from SKTT2. I think that made me think that was the ring because they're still in zone there. So I like that, right? Trying to maintain presence in that choke point and deny anyone that rotational path from thermal station. I know Oversleepers typically hangs out in that area, but for the Konichiwawas, oh my gosh, let me just tell you,
You'll get it.
I got tagged in a tweet on my pronunciation for this team, and they were so proud of you for saying it correctly, Dia, and I'm over here just throwing. I am the problem child of this duo right now.
That's okay. Pronunciation is tough. I am glad that we got folks excited about the Konnichiwawas, though. I mean, that's what the
We're
preseason's
generating
also all
hype, and
about.
that's what we're here for.
Exactly. Is it mispronunciation or is it content creation? Who's to say?
You'll never know from one
Oh,
content creator to another.
that's the magic. I do like that Konnichiwawas have picked up on the strats, the real Apex strats that have been shown during the first couple of games. They followed up on SKTT2's Loba Rampart. Now with the Loba Rampart Wraith of their own, they've even taken it one step further.
They definitely have an evolution now, still with the ring at their backs, continue on that journey. They have to fight into this team, and Voodoo on that Bangalore with the Digi threat. Name a better duo. I don't know if you can, because it's already working out so well for them, and with this just being that first ring, it's not going to be a good chunk of damage. But they just need to get the line of sights going through, and they will come through with a shield crack, and Voodoo will join into Urice and help put some damage and suppress that, but Urice will ultimately fall. Now in a little bit of a 2v2, it's actually against the tripods, who have found themselves on these rotational battles that they simply cannot withstand.
Nick Merckx all the way in the depths of launch site, not even wanting to try and continue this fight, as it was so decisive from Evolution and likely punished a bit of a split rotate from the tripods on their exit from launch site. It is an exit that a lot of folks are making down towards the south, as Ring's starting to pull just north of Lava Siphon. I am amazed that 9 Lives, after losing the early drop, have walked away with purple shields, but it's neither here nor there, just an element of surprise in the late game.
We're just keeping it consistent with their ability to find so many shields. Honestly, I need to take a page from their book in my own games. But Nick Merckx, who has set up shop underneath of launch site, kind of like a troll under the bridge, still doing well. Probably looking to go back and grab banners from the team and then be able to kind of get them back into the game. It's respectable. But the only thing that's really bad is when you're Evolution and you prioritize getting all of the beacon scans, you scan the beacon, you immediately know where Nick Merckx is.
That was pretty unfortunate. However, Nick Merckx beamed, took out Panic, and ran for the hills. The rest of Evolution unlikely to follow up on this with how split up they were, and honestly, they're very lucky that they're even able to get Panic back into the game this easily. Otherwise, it could have been a banner recovery, another point for Tripods, who in this case will just escape with their lives. Both teams have a long way to go, however, as the ring pulls us up towards the north. We saw Konnichiwa was set up in Lava Fisher earlier, and that should have given everybody an idea of where this ring was ultimately going to go. They're very shortly joined by teams like Drop In Gaming, Los Licks from above, SKTT2, of course, are playing on the train tracks, and the boys are just starting to move in through the south. This is the boys roster that we have seen, perhaps I should say, be put down in the early stages of today. Those that will always take a fight on the edge, that are KP hungry. Those are the boys that are emerging for game number 4.
You're not wrong, and they've already got one knock, and now that they've popped Bloodhound Ultimate, they are trying to push the issue and find the other two. The only challenge that they're going to have is not only that initial shot right there, they're going to have to be able to get their shields back, but they're going to push over Sleepers up into that choke point. Other teams are going to start to take notice, more specifically Weave, who have been navigating this choke for a very long time, biding their time, hoping to be able to gatekeep it as it pulls further north to Mirage Etoile. And there we do. We cut to Weave. We see that it's happening. And over Sleepers, who are a duo now, finding some really nice, clean shots there. A good 126 damage. Imagine if you would charge that.
Yeah, that would have been a knock and a half. Over Sleepers, for as good as they look, I'll be honest, are not even my focus right now because of the team they just took shots at. Tiff, you cannot write this stuff. 9 Lies are sitting at the choke point between Thermal Station and Staging, even as a duo. Even after being put down in the early game, they are still dead on mirroring the boys.
I
You
am
cannot write
laughing.
this.
I'm in pain. I am in pain because I don't know what boys did to 9 Lies to. Actually, I kind of do. I
You
read.
kinda do, yeah.
I'm gonna read. But for the sake of this, The boys have all of the odds stacked against them, and now as they turn their tides to cleaning up some more well-needed KP, ear, and thermal, Vaki may just go down because they did not get that syringe in time. Unfortunately, it took a little bit too much damage on that engagement, but the gatekeeping will be real here. Nine Lives is still a duo because they lost out on Cooper early on, where they decided to land over by tree to try to take that early engagement against the boys, and have now been forced to play out as a duo as we make our move just a little bit northern, trying to get into the ring. Near here, Dorito, they will run into an engagement against Weave, who have pulled out of the choke point and are just looking for any engagement they can get a hold of.
Shield crack does come through, and now Weave have full info. This is, in fact, a duo with, again, broken shields right below them. Wouldn't be surprised to see the drop, especially over by the zip line where you've got options, but haven't gone down just yet. Perhaps waiting for a little bit more entry damage. They are going to commit onto the low ground now, taking out Laser. And finally, we're seeing perhaps a bit of karma come back to bite Nine Lives as Laser does fall. Their comrade in arms going to get away for the moment. Nine Lives somehow still alive, but taking a look in the upper right-hand corner, boys are suffering losses, not at the hands of anyone but the ring. It's a matter of, I suppose, racing against the clock, as they've got a crafter and thermal station and will need a lot of medkits to survive.
Only time will tell to see how that pans out for them, but for Donut Shop, who seemingly always run into Evolution, it's Evolution that falls here first. Rails hitting that res and will be back up on their feet before too long, and now can kind of get back on that reset. They're out on that furthermost edge and will need to hit the move out of landslide. When you think about their rotational pass that they have to choose from this, they can kind of head due west and just slightly north, where they'll likely run into Weave, who was kind of engaging up against Nine Lives, recently took them out, or they can hang north and then cut over and hit Countdown, which would be maybe one of the better choices, a little bit longer and with not a lot of time on the clock. They'll still run into a team there. But the Kanichiwawas, oh my God, 10 out of 10 on that pronunciation, Tiffany. Chef's
You
kiss.
crushed it.
I know. You gotta hype yourself up too. Look, if we're gonna hype these teams up, sometimes we gotta hype up our small wins because every win matters.
Yeah, can we get some applause in the chat?
I'll do a little golf clap.
Yeah, that was an achievement. This in itself, by the way, absolutely another one. The boys have already outlasted Nine Lives. They take out Tripods, putting another point on the board. It ain't much, but it's honest work, and the boys are somehow surviving, if not, say, thriving, during the course of this game. With the ring at their backs and still a ways left to go, they've got to face off against Weave right ahead of them, and a bow check in the face is not doing them a lot of favors.
Yeah, that's going to be a really tough one to counteract, especially with all of the utility that's being thrown their way. Vaki is the first to fall, and as Darks closes the distance, even with that really nice, clean shots, it's just not enough to make it happen. Weave, the catalyst of Nine Lives, will now turn the favor towards the boys. And honestly, hear me out. I see Sheila in the horizon. That laser is staring me down, and guess who's at it again? SKT T2.
In an uncharacteristic move, SKT T2 have actually not predicted the zone perfectly. This could be due to a number of factors, a late rotation, perhaps just a misread, but we will actually see this roster now put to the test, as their extension towards Weave was one where they very much need to clear their side of the ring. For the next move, the next zone, is going to make SKT T2 rotate in a bit of an uncomfortable way that we have not seen from them before.
Ooh, well, can they keep it up? Hopefully they will, but Board will need to withstand the pressure that is just in front of them as well. A lot of teams have made their way over to Lava Fissure and occupy the donuts in between, but for the low ground to be held by Board now that they have been evicted out, AEO and MJ have lost out on Wizard Coin and now must kind of live as a duo. Now, granted, they could grab the banner and hit a res, but that is going to be incredibly challenging.
Swing out from Drop In Gaming into two squads, by the way. TS Mex answering right back with the swing of their own Enemigo. Gets out alive. Lots of very scary cooldowns being thrown out, especially pushes through smoke, but TSMX surviving for now actually are in one of the better positions if they're able to keep dropping gaming on the low ground. The more teams you can push down into Lava Fissure, the better a spot you're going to be in.
Look, this is what we were looking for. How can SKT T2 navigate from outside a prized position in zone? Well, Trev, they're gonna lose out on their Rampart first, and Cap falls very low. We already knew there were some teams kind of navigating this low town, and even with that to be said, Cobra still alive, just playing off kind of the structural integrity of Lava Fissure here, throwing down a nice Bangalore smoke and trying to push the issue, but will lose the shield in the meantime, and here we go, the chaos commences. Still alive for the time being with just enough time to hit that shield bat off, and now going for the res. Turn your tides to Rise and Donut Shop, who are in the mix here, and a nice little Bangalore smoke as well. But unfortunately, we just pop off of SKT2, who was not able to continue their journey on. Final 10 squad still the first map of World's Edge.
Donut Shop pick up a res, still get kept out by Rise on the low ground, but credit where it's due. The Konichiwawas may not have invented the Rampart Loba, but they've taken it in this game and raised the bar for SKTT2, using the Wraith to help wipe out their competition on the low ground. Really cool to see that pick being used, and to great effect with a little bit of fancy feet down in the lava. We did mention TSMX earlier, as now they were playing outside on this ridge line. Typical end games in Lava Fissure can pull over here. This one, however, is going to take us further north, and it's going to be right into where Donut Shop are just rounding the corner.
Wow, imagine if Rise had been able to survive through that engagement. They would have had such a solid position for that end game, similarly as well as Temper, who are kind of in that northern building on the outskirts of Lava Fissure, like right before you make your way towards Countdown, which is going to be so vital for this end game. Wouldn't be surprised if a couple teams try to rotate out of here and put so much pressure there. TSMX will likely be one of them, and Numiko already hitting the ultimate and throwing down on the low ground, pushing in to all of the teams, even Wizard Coin back into the game.
At this point in the ring close, in the exodus from Lava Fissure, the word plan is a generous term for whatever is going on, especially on the low ground, as Drop-In Gaming weave their way through the smokes and the many squads that are trying desperately to get some foothold into the next ring. A fence line to play does lie ahead of Drop-In Gaming, but they need to be wary of teams coming at them from the height, teams that are dropping down right frickin' now. Drop-In Gaming take out another, but the zone pushes them forward. Jay tries to jump up to the skies, misses the gravity lift, turns around, and while they put out a lot of damage, needs Stunny to clutch it up. It doesn't happen. TSMX pick up a kill, go down immediately, and like we said, plan, that's a generous term.
What are plans as we make our way out of Lava Fissure? The collapse happened, and now the chaos ensued. I told you this building was going to be one for a lot of contention, and Temper have now moved towards the outside, while the Konichiwawas that originally had taken up a lot of space in Lava Fissure have survived and are now on the top. Los Licks have fallen, which means Donut Shop will be the third team on the outskirts of this building, and if Donut Shop play this right, a well-timed third party could result in a win for them.
Just below Konichiwawas, this is just a duo of Temper, which is arguably making this game so much harder for Konichiwawas because they cannot rely on the squad underneath them to make their own independent push. A duo doesn't normally take matters into their own hands, though we have seen that stereotype defied by our games on Stormpoint earlier. Konichiwawas have a lot of problems right now. Most of them, the fact that they're going to be focused from both the low ground and the squad right to their side. They've done well to survive so far, but this next step from third to first, that one's going to be nearly impossible.
Going to be really challenging. We hear ultimates going in the distance, but Clankbot on the rampart here, utilizing all these amped covers, looking a lot like SKTT2 here as we moved over to World's Edge. Black Market going down. I would imagine that we're looking for any kind of maybe nades here for the end game. I saw 4 arc starts in the hand of 1, but you can never have too many, because if you can allow and jump down, throw pressure on both teams, you can do a lot of damage with some well-placed arc stars.
With the amped cover getting taken out, we're starting to swap over helmets as well. Konichiwawas have a portal that they can use if you need a little bit of extra cover, buying as much time as they can in what will be the zone, just to make a safe move into the ring proper.
Ooh.
Instant portal clip does not save their lives. Instead, it almost kills Gobble. Konichiwawas have wasted way too much health with this maneuver. The gamble has not paid off. They go down. Donut Shop gatekeep the last 2 members of Temper, and Donut Shop will be walking away with your 4th game win, the first one on World's Edge.
Yeah, that was an easy win there for Donut Shop, just biding their time. I don't know if the Wraith Portal from Konichiwawas was the right move. I think with as many Arc Stars as they had, they should have just started slinging them out and then maybe went through with the portaling. But congratulations to Donut Shop for taking out Rise, knowing that they just had to go due north and pull south into that next zone, and played it perfectly. Because as we move on to World's Edge, we were curious how the lobby quality was going to hold up, and at least for the 4th game, it looked pretty solid.
It really did, and Donut Shop is a familiar name to a lot of people who've been watching Tier 2 for a long time. They picked up, especially with great ring calculations and unorthodox compositions, great placements in last year's Challenger Circuits, picking up, I think it was 2 wins at the time, but now that they've made it here, after what was a sort of downward spiral for the roster, now having picked up a win and increasingly picking up steam during the last half of this preseason qualifier, they're looking very good. Like you said, end of the ring looked easy, but getting there took a lot of skill.
It definitely did. Let's see just how it paid off on the standings, because we knew a lot of our people that were at the top fell early, and that is just going to open the door. For the teams that are looking to make it towards the top, points disparity is still between 2nd and 3rd place, but for Donut Shop, they have made it all the way to 6th with 26 points, and now SKTT2 and Rise are tied. We are going into the final 2 matches of our 6-game series, and we have no clear definitive leader. It is tied, it is scary, and I am nervous, Dia.
And the last 2 matches just get more unruly. So, Tiff, I wish I could tell you that it's all going to be okay, but I can't do that. I can't responsibly tell you that. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, I guess I will, okay? Because let's just throw to a quick break, because now only time will tell what is going to happen on our final 2 matches of World's Edge, our final preseason qualifier. So go get some water, because it's about to get crazy here. I'll see you in a few. It's the final countdown. We have 2 more games that will decide the fate on a lot of our teams that are looking to find themselves in the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League come January. But we have 2 maps on Storm, or not Stormpoint, World's Edge to do it on. Dia, here's the deal. Let's pull up the standings really quick because we need to look at where a lot of our teams that need certain placements to qualify out of points, right? And for the teams that need to in particular, that have been going through the absolute gauntlet, Boys is one of them. They needed 7th or better, and that points threshold is not necessarily out of their reach just yet. They're currently sitting on 7. They need to best 20.
Yes, and I think it's time that we add someone else to this conversation, Tiff, because we've talked about Nine Lives and Evolution. We know they're qualing. Boys, again, need to be 7th. They're 19th. Things are tough. Oversleepers need to be in 8th. They are, where are we right now? In 16th. And last but not least, where are you? Drop In Gaming need to be 8th. And
They're
they're
8th.
actually, they're 8th.
Okay.
It's tough, but they could do it. It's time for another team to enter the conversation. S2, who have not appeared today, but up until this point had made every single finals. They appeared in finals 1, 2, and 3. They could actually qual today if these 3 teams that we're talking about do not make the necessary placement points. I'm not saying they're preying on downfalls, but S2 are certainly watching these last couple of games with very interested eyes.
You know what? That's actually huge for them because of all the chaos that the boys have been going through. They might not be able to get up there in points, especially with oversleepers as well. They've been having issues on those early game rotations and being caught out ever so much. In gaming, though, that is the big question. Will they be able to do it? Because that is going to be the catalyst for S2, who are not in the finals right now. And as we gear up for the 5th map here of our 6-game series, only time will tell what is going to happen for S2.
I'm sure that many S2 fans are watching this with bated breath. They unfortunately fell early, not making this week's finals, but had made so many points up in previous weeks that now their fate hangs in the balance. It feels a lot like the opening scenes of Hercules, and we're trying to figure out whether the fates can actually cut the string or not and deny another position in Pro League. With how today's games have been going, as you say, Tiff, the chaos has lent itself to perhaps S2 actually being able to qualify, but with 2 games remaining and us descending into more and more madness as the night goes on, the chance that they actually qualify does get larger and larger. This time, I'm keeping my eyes towards the south end of the map. Launch site had some early action last time, and this time Boys and Nine Lives have dropped at the exact same time. LBJ, in their own fight over by Climatizer, have lost 1, and it may be time to head for the hills with 2 white shields, one of them already broken.
You know, you've got to give it to boys right now because they're still just consistently trying to live, laugh, love, and Nine Lives are not letting them do it. But they're not necessarily backing down. They went tree last time, they're going to tree again, and LBJ, well, goodbye, Kissix. We are still pushing forward away from Climatizer, and that's okay.
It'll have to be. No ability to craft banners because unlike in EMEA, nobody here really runs Conduit. We did see a bit of it sprinkled through previous games, but Conduit not really the popular choice here in North America. Boys continue their loot path on the low ground, going through the scene of the crime where they previously rebuffed Nine Lives. Meanwhile, the tripods are in pretty quick fashion cleaning up Spire, who split up a lot and then got beamed by Gent in an unfortunate display.
Ooh, but this is exactly what happened on that first map of World's Edge. Tripods were the catalyst for Spire Academy and then kind of fell ever so slightly to another team as they made their way through. But can the tripods beat that again this time? Maybe. We'll have to see and determine where we're going to be going with that ring because they will have to move ever so further north. But for Unleash, will they be able to move out of this stairway? Probably not. Legatron will fall and Unleash will meet their fate towards the hands of your map for Winner's Donut Shop.
When your climatizer staircase looks more like a Vitamix, you're probably not getting out of there alive. And we see it play out. We've seen it play out, even in Lava Fisher, just last game. One kill onto a member of the boys, however, does mean that something is changing. There is something in the water, and Nine Lies about to drink it. Taking out the boys. They have once again accomplished their mission of death and destruction, but have they done it too late? The tripods cleaned up their fight earlier and could very well and are coming in for a third party.
Look, I mean, the shield swap are coming through, but they're still very weak on the actual white meds. And with tripods kind of opening up with some burning thermites, quite literally ticking for flesh, Gent was able to throw down enough damage that Deeds and Nick Merck should both be able to infiltrate this building from another way and capitalize on the damage done. Deeds, though, alongside Gent, will push ever so slightly forward. And Nine Lies, having landed here and been engaging here early on against boys, know just how to position themselves. We've seen grav lifts go off and block stairs, but for now, they keep trying to disengage and hold the line. Deeds, though, will get caught out and has to prioritize on the shield healing. And Nick Merckx has 7 seconds until that next scan, but Nine Lies, still relatively split throughout this engagement, seem to be isolating on Gent.
They're right back to where the boys had previously gone down. Nine Lives are giving absolutely zero ground up to them. It is interesting that you note the cooldown on Nick Merck's scan because that's exactly the timer that tripods are playing on. They get a scan, they take ground. They get a scan, they look for damage. It is constantly operating in an information advantage, never giving up more than they have to. It does mean, however, that they're letting Nine Lives take a lot of control in between scans, as now we've got another 30 seconds where Nine Lives can more or less do as they like. Crack comes in, a little bit more information gets given to tripods through the glass roof. They know the flank must be coming, and Nick Burks is going to swing on it, instantly taking quite a bit of damage, but having the backup of the rest of the team.
The issue with this is just taking such an extended period of time. I wish Nick would have had a nade there to be able to throw into it, but they were able to get 2 knocks. Yes, the trade comes through onto Deeds, but in a 2v1 scenario, they're going to play once again off the scan from Nick, now hitting for flesh. They need to be a little more careful here to push through. Jet does grab a shield swap and is enabling him to just go straight down into the lair of where Nine Lives likes to play, surrounding that staircase. But unfortunately, on a Revenant, can't really do much in terms of a gravity lift there, and they will be able to take down Nine Lives. Tripods live to see another day, but for oversleepers who need to make a certain points threshold, a certain placement, who are not there just yet, finding themselves in a little bit of a precarious situation. Charmander first to utilize that Dark Veil, but look at the Dark Veil to match.
Their disengage should be pretty clean right now, with Pharaoh Fluid coming in behind them, but I say that and may have spoken too soon. By the way, Konnichiwawa's going down in the meantime. Unfortunate, as we won't get to see any more Rampart gameplay from them. As good as it looked just last game, even including the Wraith, the Oversleepers go down as well, with Try grabbing the kills, and it has been a very active early game. I can't say that this is unexpected because, as we both noted at the start of the broadcast, I did watch EMEA this morning. You watched EMEA this morning. You know exactly what's going on. As we get later into the day, not only are the stakes getting higher, but the barrier to Pro League is getting higher, with more teams accumulating greater points to be in first place. That means that if you want first, you need to have a ridiculous amount of kills, and that means making ridiculous plays.
And I like ridiculous plays. Like, I just want to
Yes.
see it happen, you know? But for drop in gaming, just out here vibing, as some would say, as we move our way towards the northern side of World's Edge for once. A good chunk of our teams are occupying the northern areas of Skyhook throughout the tunnel, Survey and Epi, and then Climatizer. The pool does come through, and it is going to favor the teams that have made their way towards Survey Camp. And for TS Mechs, who are looking to probably get scans over an Epicenter, will be able to choose which way they push. Now, granted, trying to push out of Epicenter towards that building in which Temper occupies right now on the map can be challenging, right? Because you're always going to be on the low ground, whether you're pushing towards survey or you're going towards that building. But LBJ rotating in on Donut Shop would be interesting to see, because that's a fight that Temper could look to get involved in, which would allow TS Max to get out of Epi.
It's fascinating in itself that LBJ even managed to get all 3 members back into the game, especially after the way that the early game had gone for them. It is going to be still a slow play from them, as like you talk about, contesting Donut Shop for their position north of Climatizer would be a little bit difficult, but Rise, they're playing same old, consistently moving to the slow side of the ring, the spot that not many teams will approach from on the far end of the zone. And then from there, taking every fight they possibly can until they clear that side out and win the game.
But for Rise, could be interesting for them, right? They need this, and Weave is just ahead of them in a little bit of a root battle for the Skyhook. They just need to go a little bit further towards that next zone, but have 28 seconds before the ring starts to close. And with a scan on the beacon, it could be anyone. Could definitely be anyone. Could also be Evolution. They seem to always be the ones really playing for those beacons.
Having the extra survey data available has definitely benefited teams like Evolution, teams like Rise, and I invoke their name even as they are gone, but teams like Boys from times past, as they are squads that like to find kills, like to take aggressive 3v3s, and can often do so by egoing the fights, by not making any entry damage and simply committing themselves into the opponent's face. It's worked for them in the past, it's working for a lot of squads even left in this lobby, but you're seeing the fights take a slower pace to them now because we dropped so many squads in the early game. Even as so many teams do look for engagements, there are only 14 teams left, and at least 7 of them are already in deep zone hold up in survey camp.
Which is a stark difference between what we are witnessing here, what we saw in EMEA this morning. If I'm not mistaken, it was either 4 or 5 squads in the final zone, and that was it. Yeah, it got pretty hairy, that's for sure.
Yeah. The pace of play really accelerated kind of ridiculously quickly in EMEA. And while we still may see that for the final game on World's Edge in North America, as again, teams' desperation for points does increase dramatically as the day goes on, it's less likely because we're playing these games out on World's Edge that rewards positioning more so than your ability to take 3v3 fights. It's why we're seeing so many people stacked up in survey camp. It's why the game has been a little bit slower so far, and it's why I'm holding out hope for Game 6 to be, again, some nice, relatively clean Apex Legends.
I think it's going to be a bloodbath at this point. Like, if what is happening, if all of our teams realize that it's all or nothing for them to make Pro League, it's going to invoke the chaos. And it starts kind of now here in map number 5 with 13 squads as LBJ has fallen to Evolution, and Los Licks have found themselves in desperate need, just mere seconds away from getting that shield bat off, probably just a half a second. And now Gyozi has found themselves the last member of Los Licks. Your map 3 winners found themselves needing a quite miracle to be able to hit this reset. We're not going to be able to get Chicas on that banner reset, but we might be able to get this res.
And that seems to be going well at the very least. The competition between Rise and Try is actually swinging in the favor of Try. It's their high ground advantage, and now really ultimate incredible position in round 3. This is a win for them. They do not need to chase this for too much longer, as Zone 2 is going to cause a lot of hurt, and well, it's theoretically possible to survive. Try are looking for the last kill, and they'll get it. Silent, with nowhere to go and no cover to play behind, does fall to Try on the edge of the map. A really nice and resonating win for Try, who have not been able to answer the edge play of Rise in the same way all day.
Yeah, and that was solid, but here's also what was solid. Weave was the team that was pushing towards Los Licks and really evicting them out of this space. Tripods move in, eliminate Weave, save Los Licks. They're able to get the res. They double back and start looking into kind of what went wrong here, what happened. And now Tripods have taken this high ground and will kind of toggle around on this, grab some quick information at the hands of Deeds, and decide on where they want to go from here. They are north of 7 eliminations with 11 squads to go. Yes, Tripods are finally turning up, but is it too late for them? Did Rise and SKT T2 going out early in that prior game, and now that Rise is eliminated again, is that going to allow Tripods the ability to start carving on those points?
It very well may, but it's going to rely on zone predictions going wrong for SKTT2. As we illustrated, they are already set up in survey camp, and with a Rampart Loba, multiple of them even set up in survey camp, as they're not the only ones running this composition. The Crypt have picked up Loba as well, and there's a lot of loot to go around in survey camp, a lot of time, and not a whole lot of action, especially until the end game. Zone is pulling us a little further north than most teams in survey, which gives Tripods the chance to eclipse the points that SKTT2 have, but it'll have to wait for the next minute.
Ooh, and this is going to be really tough here for Los Licks as TS Max have left Epicenter and completely eviscerated the duo of Los Licks. Now, knowing that they have to move, we set our sights on that coveted survey camp and the building just north of Epicenter. Evolution has moved on to the rooftop. Incoming creeping barrage there from the Rolling Thunder, and they are still relatively safe on the building. And as I say that, they are getting targeted by every single person, so dropping down kind of under the outside of this, utilizing just this barrier here for the semblance of cover, will allow them to hit the reset ever so slowly.
You'll recall exactly what I said about teams like Evolution that will move up to within an inch of your face, even off no entry damage at all. And in this particular case, it's going to cause problems for both squads. Evolution and Temper, who are right on top of each other, have TSMX and Donut Shop converging on their position. They've even attracted attention from Tripods, who are down in the center of Epi, and all 5 teams are moving on this building.
That's going to be scary, but you know what's even weirier is the fact that Tripods are in a do or die scenario, knowing that they need every bit of elimination, similar to TS Max, right? But Tripods, knowing that they need that, have already full sent. They're turning their tides at, and they're kind of separating out and taking a different approach. Evolution will fall, so it will be just that isolated 3v3 against Tripods and TS Max. But the question is, where did Donut Shop elect to go as the ring is closing with 28 seconds to go? None of these teams are in it.
TSMX do finally break out of the building, shooting Nick in the back. They aren't going to connect for too much damage, but Talus hits the shield swap before an eventual rotation into ring that they are still not in. With no catalyst wall available to TSMX, they'll put themselves in a no man's land between Donut Shop and Tripods. Donut Shop on the low ground, Tripods on the height, and TSMX in the very uncomfortable sandwich.
Ooh, an Enemigo falling incredibly low, and as I say that, Talus and Serpy both fall, and now TS Max fall at the hands of Deeds. Tripods, I don't know what you did to try and turn things around this late in the series, but it is working. We're looking for double-digit eliminations, and now we must find ourselves into that next circle. But for Drop-In Gaming, for our teams that are outside, that are making their way from survey camp, this is going to be really tough, especially with the structure that we have built with Rampart walls, trying to save us from Tri, that have moved into the zone, that are occupying the rock, which typically, whichever team holds that, will hold win condition, are going to put the hurt onto the Crypt.
Crypts do run out of cover. Tripods and an unending siege right above them, and now having hit the scan, could even find nades onto this very well looted up group. Getting a wingman back in the hands of Deeds is going to be fantastic, and with a singular arc star, make it 2, the Crypt will be taken down. I want to see that loot happen. I want to see the wingman picked up, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get my wish.
I mean, regardless of what is happening, the Tripods are putting on a show right now. Typically, they had been taking out only 3 KP from Spire Academy. Well, this time they took that, they're capitalizing on it, and they're moving forward. So now we just need to figure out what they're going to do to get into that zone, because we need to couple their eliminations and maximize it with a win, because that could really change the tides of their future and potentially send them to Pro League. And I don't want to get too excited right now because we are only in the 5th game, but this is a masterclass in what they needed to start earlier
Great
on in the
smoke.
series.
Beautiful smoke and grab lift from Gent and Deeds to move the entire team up here. It's the only thing keeping Tripods safe for now, and it is just a temporary status. Drop-in gaming do go down. Tri are still on the low ground, and Donut Shop are right next door. But with ultimate high ground belonging to Tripods, the only thing they're missing is their IGL.
Well, look, they've got 2 knocks there onto Donut Shop, and that's going to turn the tides, and they will take those KP. Now, granted, a 2v3 situation against Tri. Nick Mercs is fully eliminated, and they do not have the health advantage. Trying to stave off the push, they might have just taken a play for second, because Tri are going to hit the same grav lift that put them on the top, and Tri will take out Tripods. Your winners now of map number 5.
You have to appreciate the wordplay here with Tri taking out Tri. It's right there. You cannot write this stuff, but with a Game 5 victory belonging to one of the 2 Tris, and the one with the shorter name at that, it's a nice way to pick up a win. Not a lot of KP came with that. Tri did pick up a few kills on their way in, notably on Rise after defending the eastern side of this ring. The story of this game has to be about Tripods and their path up towards Pro League, because it was looking pretty glum towards the first couple of games. With 1 game left to play, Tripods actually are in a position where they could do this.
Did they move the needle enough to put them into contention against SKT T2 and Rise? Well, let's pull up the standings. Let's check it out, because, I mean, if they got second, that's 9 placement points. But how many eliminations were they able to walk away with? It actually does move the needle. They have found themselves in 3rd, just 6 points out of 2nd, 8 points out of 1st.
Who would have known? I certainly wouldn't have predicted that coming into today, we would have, of the every team until 8th place needs a win. If this isn't some weird day where we've got teams that, oh, we could win, we're in the top 3, but we can do whatever we want. No, all the teams that are in the top 8 are in spots where they must win in order to qualify to Pro League, and are so close to doing so with our first 3, SKTT2, Rise trying to requalify, and Tripods trying to re-qualify. Keep your eyes on drop-in gaming as well, but oh my god, there's so many possibilities to talk about, Tiff, and I need to get water before Game 6.
Look, a lot of us need to stay hydrated. We care about you at home, right? We have 1 more game to go, and until then, you guys all need to take a lap, maybe get water like Dia, figure something out, but come back with popcorn and a snacky, because it's got to get real intense here as we cut to a quick break before our final match of our last preseason qualifier. The time is now. One final match on World's Edge separates our teams from a potential spot in Pro League. Dia, I could not be more excited, but let's pull up the standings. We'll set the storylines really quick once again in case someone has tuned into the main broadcast. So for all of our teams that have found themselves inside the top 8 are in a must-win situation. For Drop In Gaming, they need to get into 8th place, 9 points separating them, Dia. And that's not all.
No, it is not. And while we say, yes, Drop In Gaming need to clinch 8th, so do Oversleepers, who are currently in 16th, and Boys need to clinch 7th, and they're in 19th right now. So things are not looking hot for everybody that needs to make a placement today. Drop In Gaming, arguably in the best spot, but even that is really steep competition when looking at the way the rest of the lobby has played out. Teams like Evolution and Nine Lives, again, have qualified mathematically today. At the conclusion of this game, they will be moving on to Pro League. How they do that is up to them.
And that's tough, right? Because we even have a team that's not in this finals lobby that is looking to seal a deal, a ticket, whatever it takes towards Pro League. S2 lying in wait outside at home. Who knows where they are? But they are keeping tabs on this with a chance that they thought might not even be possible actually happen. Should Drop In Gaming, Oversleepers, Boys, any of those not be able to hit the threshold that they need. But for those of you at home that are keeping eyes on this final map of World's Edge, it's SKTT2, Rise, and Tripods. Even Temper could potentially have the ability to really make this happen because SKTT2 Rise, they haven't necessarily had the best World's Edge matches. They found a lot of their points on Storm Point, but have been falling relatively early here on World's Edge. And as we lock into character select for the last time, Dia, it's so crazy. This is the end of the preseason qualifiers after this.
It is, and it's very scary because, as I talked about at the start of the day, some people's dreams are going to come true, and others are going to be crushed for this preseason, leaving it up to Challenger Circuit and promotion relegation from then on. This is probably the fastest some people's hearts are going to go in a while, certainly my own, because World's Edge is a gripping map. We talked about this last game, but when we're thinking about how to play out things on Stormpoint versus World's Edge, we saw a very, very fast-paced game on Stormpoint for EMEA in round 6. We saw a pretty darn fast-paced game for North America in round 5, but Stormpoint's easy to accelerate. World's Edge, not nearly so much, and that'll be on the mind of a lot of these teams when they're looking to get points like Tripods did last game to finally put themselves in a spot where they can contend for a victory. We've already got some fights kicking off, in fact, as in order to, I'll say, artificially accelerate the pace of the game and get some more points, teams are dropping on top of each other.
We figured this would happen. The lobby quality in EMEA went down significantly throughout the journey of that series. In the 6th game, well, was the craziest infest I've ever seen. But for SKT T2, that needs a win, that is in currently first place, already has Cobra down and out. Not necessarily fooled, but has sent everyone else on that team into a scramble. And you know who was also scrambling? Nine Lives in that drop shot, looking for kind of where Boys went. Boys elected to land Geyser, leaving Tree.
And Nine Lives just completely bamboozled. Did end up splitting Lava Siphon in a very weird course of events. Reese does find another knock, but even as members of SKTT2 fall, keep in mind that as long as they have one, since they're running Loba, they can craft banners and come back into this game. It's not a mechanic we see used too often, but in this particular round, on this particular day of the preseason quals, it may be the most pivotal mechanic in the game.
Definitely, but as Panic Apex finds that knock and full on to Cap, they are running into a very scary situation. One member is likely left standing, but that is all they need. Trev Stacks now running for their life, poked and prodded from all distances. Reese at the helm of this engagement. Trev, this is so unfortunate, but they will fall. Evolution at the helm of that engagement. Now that opens the door. We turn the tides. Rise in second place with 54 points, just 2 points away from SKTT2.
It is so rare that you get to see heartbreak in 4K like that. But with SKTT2 expiring, that's the only thing that I can say I saw. Oversleepers send it in for another fight, another team to be crushed, but they lose one instead, with Drop In Gaming refusing to give up on life, refusing to give up on the 8th place they need.
And they were just a few points out. It was 9 in particular that they needed to unseat Donut Shop in 8th place. And with JP down and fooled, no Radiant transfer will come through on the teams. And Master Ping had to result to a shield swap. And Charmander does push forward and try to help with the damage as they encompass. And they take out Drop In Gaming. Oh my god, another heartbreak. This one in 8K.
Drop In Gaming, now I will say, might still make it. They are relying now on Oversleepers to underperform and not usurp them in the overall standings. Should be doable, should be fine, but there's always an outside chance that the Oversleepers, who just took out Drop In Gaming, are able to change the narrative and pick themselves into a spot above Drop In. That is some really nice shots. Those are, rather, some really nice shots from Nick Merckx. With Vera going down, Tripods really seek the first place spot. We know that they very much need it in order to qualify to Pro League, but they're playing with... well, they're playing like it.
Look, you were talking about rewriting narratives, and Tripods needs to do it. They started off in last game, doing what they needed, grabbing a well-needed second place, putting themselves up to third with 48 points, with SKTT2 out of the lobby and only 8 points ahead of Tripods. They've already found some well-needed KP, and you have to think, where is Rise? Well, Rise is on the other side of this engagement, and Donut Shop is 2 HP away from escaping, and it's not even just that. Unleash has made the mix into it. There you go, Rise hitting the reset, not necessarily fully done as Tri fall off screen, and Unleash swing in 2 blues and a purple, a lot of HP and a lot of R9 shots, but it's not gonna be enough for Legatron.
Getting double swung like that really messes up Legatron's plan, but Unleash still have a way to win this fight, especially with the Rolling Thunder hitting like it did. Another knock comes through onto a Vexus, and up the gravity lift we go. Do you stay on height? No! Instead, dropping back down without access to the high ground, Unleash are going to wait for another grav lift to take this engagement. Try and pick up a res in the meantime. It is a 1 versus 2, perhaps a 1 versus 3. As Unleash now chase the final member of Rise and take them down. That could keep SKTT2 ahead? Question mark?
No, the final piece is Tripods.
Rise did it.
The final piece is Tripods here. The top 2 teams are gone and out. It opens the complete door. I think Rise did do enough by taking out that full team prior, but if Tripods, remember, points. It might be just a little bit more now that Rise did find some KP, but they've already found another 2 onto Spire Academy. This KP that essentially Tripods have been farming. They look to farm again as Spire Academy is eliminated.
More kills come to them. This is the miracle run that the fans need, and Tripods have many, many fans who I'm sure have been getting more nervous as the day has gone on. This is where you've really got to worry, because so many teams have dropped in the chaos that even Tripods, for all that they're succeeding right now, are not safe. Rise currently hold the first place position, but as even more teams drop, let's not forget, placement points are a bigger part of this match than almost any other game.
And we're starting to get into it with 11 squads, right? 15 is where that cutoff starts. Now, granted, it's not going to be a lot, but it will add into the mix. And as the zone starts to pull, it still encompasses some of Geyser, and that is quite a fickle zone because No Name over towards Fragment is still in the zone. For the teams that are looking to rotate out of Monument and all of these places, it will be kind of in their benefit. And Oversleepers needed to find a certain position on the leaderboard in order to qualify, and they're still in the mix, but they need to be flawless.
With 8th place being their goal, Oversleepers are looking for kills, don't have the ability to access many of them. Nine Lives get chunked out by a grenade. Cooper gets breathed on a little too hard by Cloaked. Nine Lives are right back to the beginning of this game, looking for the resets. They do have the ability to craft banners, a lot like SKTT2. May they rest in peace. But the next couple of minutes are largely based on whether they can even find access to a crafter in a ring, in a lobby going this fast.
Yeah, this is definitely really quick. It's in line with what we witnessed in EMEA. Still 11 squads, though. Some teams actually playing zone there in Geyser. Legatron back on their feet, taking down a couple of members, and now they keep barreling forward here in Train Station. There will be a few other teams looking to rotate out of Monument and towards No Name. For the teams that are in zone, they're not going to be able to have a lot of those chances to pick up the elimination similar to Unleash as they take down Board.
Round 2 has not even started closing yet. Actually, I'm going to revise that sentence. As I say that, it has begun. And we're down to 10 teams already. Remember when I said maybe World's Edge will have a little bit of a slower pace because it's World's Edge and you can't accelerate the game like that? North America is trying their best to prove me wrong, and it's working. Los Licks may even knock us down to 9, be it for them or against them in the next few moments. As with Unleash right below, they've got to take their time with this fight, but that doesn't mean that they will.
And as much as I would love to start calculating math and determine where our teams are going out and how the threshold is working, with all of the chaos that has ensued from this final game, we just know that the very end of this, it's going to be incredibly close, and it always comes down to Tripod. They are the final piece of the puzzle of the PSQ number 4. So I know MFAM is down deep in the streams looking to see what is happening, but first we have to get through this battle of Train Station. Black Hole's going out to block in, and enemy 1 comes to suit, but they've already lost out on 1, and they're just trying to make sure they can get their health back up before the full push comes to shove, and that zone, it's inching ever so closely, and they need to get out of this position. But with Legatron down and Dino out as well, Blorzy will have to be perfect in a 1v3.
Here we go, with the scans already having found a connection. Los Licks have nothing to fear. They rocket on forward, and we tune back in with Tripods, the team to watch this game. They've picked up yet another kill. TS Mechs go down for even trying to share space with Tripods. And I can smell it coming. This is just like Vantage's opening line quote.
Right,
but you can smell this win coming for Tripods, as they are so incredibly close to finding a first place spot. They have 5 KP already, and they are in deep zone. I can't even think of what would possibly unseat them at this point. Konichiwawas are right next door. You can't get to Tripods without moving through a Rampart Loba squad, and a Rampart Loba squad is not going to push Tripods.
That's true, and honestly, Tripods are like going to keep them alive for the time being as teams look to rotate in towards Geyser. But at this point, Tripod doubters are on the edge of their seat. They were not expecting this throughout the first 3 maps of their day, but it only takes 1 map to turn things around. And honestly, maybe it's kind of running the course of playing Edge on the leaderboard, right? You don't want to move up too quick and put yourself in the eyes on the bullseye. The target does not need to be on their backs because they moved so late and everyone was focused on boys, SKT2, Rise. Tripods are succeeding because of that.
It's a miracle. I've said it all day, but if we did have a script behind the scenes, we would need some serious raises because this writing is immaculate. There is an incredible story, a comeback story for Tripods being told on our screens. And for as much as teams attempt to frag out around the map, to somehow usurp what Tripods have set up, It is a final, an end game boss in Tripods that they will be encountering, and the likes of that roster that we have not seen throughout this entire preseason qualifier.
It's really tough. You think back to year 3. Nick Merckx and the Tripods get that coveted invite to Pro League, do not maintain their status in the ALGS, and are forced to go into the preseason qualifiers for year 4. And if it comes down to the very final preseason qualifier for them to secure their spot, well, it's better late than never, because I could not imagine what that would look like for Gent, Deeds, and Nick Merckx. But until then, with 7 squads remaining and that zone pulling deep in favor of Tripods into Geyser, they will have to move just a little bit, but not by much, because they've anchored themselves in such security towards that back half by taking out TS Max early on, where they were kind of sharing space towards that mountainous side on the west. We just have to fight forward, and Evolution, who had moved in from the choke point towards Big Mod, will find themselves collapsing amongst a bunch of teams.
9 Lives are fighting for the high ground and should be doing so just fine. This is a terrifying squad to take a fight up against, and even as they get peppered with shots, they should be able to survive. What's drawing my attention now is Los Licks, who have just arrived from the tunnel into Geyser, the one holding the vault, who now face off against Tripods. Los Licks were in 5th, only 8 points behind Tripods. If somebody can shut down the journey of Nick Merckx, Gent, and Deeds, it's Los Licks, who are just now walking up the hill to do it. Temper take their own fight on the low ground, seem to be doing all right, trading 1 for 1, but they're attracting even more attention.
Ooh, and those
Nice
wingman shots do come in clutch. The spray was a little wild at first, but it does connect, and they eliminate Oversleepers. The journey for them is potentially done, but look who has made the move. That engagement allowed Tripods to get just a little bit more closer to Los Licks, and already expending the beast of the hunt, trying to vie for some information. We are holding on to that scan frag in hand, just waiting. Let's keep an eye out. 1 assist, 2 eliminations. So we know they've got at least 3 points here thus far, and they're inching their way up into the placement points. At what point do the Tripods need to usurp SKT, T2, and Rise?
Can Los Licks take them down before this happens? Can they jump over all of those hurdles that are in their way to actually take the win? Los Licks toss out a few nades, get some through the window right back. Chickus goes low, may even go down to the next frag, but they manage to avoid it. Next frag not going to be utilized for now, as Los Licks took much too much damage, even as Tripods were unaware. It does mean that an ult is down. Los Licks cannot push off of the black hole anymore. It's going to have to wait until next zone. 5 squads still left. Tripods accumulating even more placement points, even as they eat an Arc Star.
Here we go. The push comes to shove. Gent is going to the brunt of it. Able to do so much damage, but the trade comes through. Now Deeds and Nick Merckx, that hitfire not going to be favorable. It will fall into Nick Merckx, but they will fall to Los Licks. Did they do enough? Well, time will tell. 9 Lives in the meantime capitalize on the third party, eliminated Los Licks right after. So now the points will have to come down to the final wire, because Los Licks would have been the team that could potentially have put the issue towards Tripods. Falling right after that, well, now we look towards it. Also, Dia, I haven't seen the zone in forever, since Pro League, back when we started, and it was Complexity that was holding the spot before they got oobed. It was scary, it was crazy, and now 9 Lives have it for free.
They're back to run it, and they're running it with Conduit, who's actually going to be fantastic in a position like this, where multiple teams have to leave a building, and they've all got to walk through the energy barricade. I don't see it happening. I see 9 Lives taking this final game. And even as I say that, they're going to be the ones to push in and take the game by force, eliminating Temper and moving us to just the 1v3 between 9 Lives and Konichiwawas. It's a bit of a ceremonial run. We knew 9 Lives were moving to Pro League, but now they get to do it in style.
Look at them just waiting to the final map of the day to completely throw down and take that win. It's because the boys didn't make it towards endgame. 9 Lives were like, all right, fine, we can win now. And they do just that. Why not celebrate? It's been a massive journey, so congratulations to 9 Lives on that Pro League journey and that final win of the preseason qualifiers for year 4. Now, all we have to do, Dia, is sit here and wait and speculate and try to determine what in the world that leaderboard is going to look like, because it has been crazy. You think back to map number 1, SKTT2 take that win with 20 points. Rise gets second, 19 points. Rise battles back in map number 2 and takes the win with SKTT2 very much up there. And that was just the first 2 maps on Stormpoint.
It was, and it got even more unhinged from then on. I'm very happy that with Los Licks almost coming close to qualifying, they did at least manage to get a win in game number 3. After their shutdown of Tripods, however, it is unlikely that they qualified, as they were one of the teams that needed a win. They didn't quite get enough after Tripods. I do want to credit, especially in that endgame fight, Nick Merckx with some really in-the-moment thinking. Finishing off a kill instead of going for the team fight win, which was unlikely. Instead, managed to get the 1 additional point, which, had Los Licks survived, could have actually made the difference between these 2 squads. It was really nice thinking, and for a team that is likely to be in Pro League, or at least very close, that's what you want to see.
You mentioned that 1 KP of Nick Merckx going for that. And now we have to sit here and think, knowing that SKTT2 went out insanely early in that map number 6. Rise very quick to follow, even though they've been so consistent throughout the day. Until World's Edge, which will be the bane of their existence should this not kind of end in a qualification spot for them to Pro League, we have to just sit here and speculate. Because I want to know, Dia, year 4. I don't know if we're going to be there. I don't know which teams are going to be there, but I want to know.
As do I.
I need to know.
The awkward thing is that there's really no way of knowing. I will say, SKTT2 didn't really make it. They would have gotten jumped over in points by Rise. So it's Rise, or it's Tripods, or it's perhaps someone new? I suppose, Tiff, that it's time to find out, because I know that we have the answer behind the scenes. I don't know the answer. And so, let's find out. The final winner of this preseason qualifier, the 4th one in a long series, a long journey for everyone, and arguably the most chaotic preseason qualifier yet, has given us one more team to Pro League. Your winner is Temper!
What? What?
I'm sorry, I just dropped everything. Where is the... Okay.
What?
I knew that they were... Okay.
They had 42 points coming into game number 6.
They had 4... Yeah. Was Geyser really that... I'm going to rewatch that game. I'm going to rewatch that game right now.
Did I miss something?
That is probably the most unexpected way that today could have gone. And Temper make it into ALGS. This is an incredible turn of events for them, and very, very well deserved. Tiff, do something, Tiff. I need water.
Look. This was not on my bingo card for 2023 year 4 preseason qualifiers, but congratulations to Adavant Cloaked and Call Spades. Just because you did not grace our broadcast very much towards that last game, I'm really excited for you. But how close was it? We need to take the standings. We need to look a little more into this. I'm pulling out my magnifying glasses because the math, albeit I'll leave it to the legends behind the scenes to let it math, but I just need to see the standings. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, by 1 point, Temper.
What do you mean?
Okay, let me just frame for the audience, because not everybody watches all the preseason qualifiers, not everybody watches all the challenger circuits, not everybody is familiar with all the names that are on screen right now.
Right.
One of the biggest reasons this is so shocking for Temper is that their roster, the most recognized name on it, the one that most people will be familiar with, is Audi. Maybe Pax, Some people might know PAX. Audi is best known for being a Mirage one-trick
Ooh.
in ALGS Tier 2.
Okay.
Temper barely qualified into today. It is their first finals appearance in this preseason qualifier.
Oh.
This team, for all intents and purposes, has come out of absolutely nowhere and in the most competitive, the most chaotic preseason qualifier, have last minute punched their ticket to play with Tiff, the best in the world.
Well, they clearly deserve it. I feel
yeah.
like a very horrible person because we didn't even see that one coming. So the fact that they were able to, hang on, let's do some quick math real quick. Quick math. I'm actually going to do it. 42 points prior to this game. A 17-point game was what led them to unseat tripods, even going for that last elimination, that full kill, instead of playing their life. Which, by the way, I would imagine that tripods would have potentially won the tiebreaker because they got a second place just in that map before. But Rise going out early, despite taking down one team, I don't care that they held the high ground. It didn't matter. That team was not going to let Rise live. SKT T2 got ran down by Evolution early on and didn't acquire any points. Rise only got 3. Los Licks were making a play for it. They took out tripods and kind of stifled any hope they had towards that end game. And you have to think about it. Kunichiwawas was in Geyser just as long as tripods, but made it toward the end for a second place. You have to think that because of Kunichiwawas playing Rampart, which tripods were not, kind of led the teams in the lobbies to look at the legend compositions around them and choose who to go for.
I mean, that it did. No doubt about it. This game, this series, is all kinds of crazy. And the top of the leaderboard is just one of many things that we have to focus on. Because that's not the only thing that determines who's going to Pro League.
You're right.
We've still got points, which is somehow more wild. We'll talk about Temper a little bit more during the next bit, because I do want to take a look at them contrasted with our other winners of the preseason qualifiers, the 4 teams that have won each preseason, how they've done it, what their series have looked like, because they have been vastly different. Temper, probably the most clutch win so far, but not the flashiest.
Like, I'm not gonna call a spade, but like Call Spades definitely has way more eliminations than everyone from the prior preseason qualifiers. I remember back, look, we've been on this journey for quite some time now, 4 weeks throughout the 4 preseason qualifiers. And the first one kicked off with Elevate Gaming, Shubi, Zach Mazer, and Zapto taking a coveted early win. And that allowed them to just kind of rest up and get the mind right before moving into Pro League in January. Look, if I'm going to take a preseason qualifier win, I want it to be the first one, because I don't want to come down to the wire like Temper did, because my heart rate, I couldn't survive that. But still, impeccably done. And then preseason qualifier number 2, GKS joins the fray. Now, granted, not sure what this roster is going to look like going into Pro League, but they did earn a qualification spot.
As those 3, certainly, with Oblivion coming up right behind them in PSQ number 3. This was another one that came a little bit out of nowhere. I think a lot of people had underrated this team. I certainly had, even knowing their history with Blueberry previously. But Oblivion came in, swept PSQ number 3 under the rug, taking with them a spot to Pro League. And then we come to Temper, who, again, I'm going to say even more so than Oblivion, I very much underrated. This is probably my favorite part of the preseason qualifiers, my favorite part of the Challenger Circuit, my favorite part of getting to participate in the rise up to Pro League TIFF. And it's seeing teams and players like this who come in, perhaps don't have that much PR, that much expectation behind them, whatever it may be, and blow us out of the water, and more importantly, the teams around them. This was a victory by 1 point, but it was, well, it was just as, if not more impressive than so many of the other victories that we've seen take to the PSQ stage.
You're not wrong. I was just kind of seeing what people were thinking about when like kind of watching this, because granted we're on a delay. Someone said Tripods got TSM scriptwriters on their payroll today. And I think that's really funny because I was not expecting the level of Game of Thrones writing to witness here in the final bout at the very end. Temper taking the lead. Like, it's just crazy. And you're right. That's what's the coolest part about the preseason qualifiers. It's what did we not expect? Teams hitting our radar and getting that well-deserved spot, right? They fought for it. They earned it. This cannot just be given here. They are always taken, and Temper took what was theirs. So now we turn the tides to who else is going to be joining these 4 teams in the Year 4 Apex Legends Global Series Pro League come January, because now we queue qualified via points. We lead the lives to all the math battalions behind me, because I'm not doing the math. Who is
It's
it?
okay.
Dia?
It's okay. Of course, we covered Elevate, GKS, Oblivion, and Temper, but we also talked about these eventualities during the course of today's games. 9 Lives and Evolution qualified at the start of today. S2 did manage to make it simply because, even though Drop In Gaming didn't make 8th, they placed above Oversleepers, which was the squad they had to beat in order to make it into today. So
S2.
the fact that S2, who did not play today but made every finals up until now, have managed to make it in is due to the fact that Oversleepers did not make 8th, nor did, I will say, Drop In Gaming. But just because one of them didn't, and Boys, of course, did not make 7th, S2 managed to make it in. I'm sure they've been watching this with bated breath, but they can now finally breathe, and probably breathe sighs of relief just before cries of adulation, because it's Pro League time.
It is Pro League time, and now we are all going to have to wait just moments, weeks that will separate between the start. But honestly, I think Drop In Gaming just had to finish ahead of Oversleepers and Boys to make that happen, which is great. They did just enough, and congratulations to them. And honestly, I don't want to be S2 watching this entire 6-map series, but come to find out that everything that happened led to them still making Pro League, which is absolutely huge. So now that we have our final teams for Pro League, we just to wait just a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's end of January, but we've got time to celebrate the holidays. As you said, we are going to take a break as the ALGS in between now and end of January, when Pro League will kick off. Really sincere congratulations to the teams that managed to clinch their qualifying spot today. Drop In Gaming, of course, played out of their minds to try and make it. Did not make it up until the 8th place spot, but Temper blew everyone away. Audi, Cloaked, Spades. You're amazing. You crushed it. And I can't wait to see you in Pro League.
I can't wait to see you guys in Pro League either. Congratulations to all the teams from all the regions that have made their way into Year 4 Pro League. Your journey is just beginning. Whether you're a seasoned veteran in the Pro League or you're new, this is going to be a time for growth for you, and I could not be more excited to watch that. Whether you joined us here on Versus, whether you watched through a watch party, regardless of how you ingest all things Apex competitive, thank you so much for being a part of your journey. That's all for me, Dia. I'm going to let you bring it home, because you kind of started this journey on the preseason qualifiers, and you've got to end it here.
It's certainly been a joy, and Tiff, thank you very much for going through the last preseason qual with me. We will be back here on Versus with Challenger Circuit in the upcoming season, so keep your eyes out here for the up-and-comers of Apex Legends, as that can always be found on Versus GG. You can follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitch. During the upcoming season, you can expect a couple of changes from us here at Versus, because we've been going through the preseason qualifiers and enjoying it quite a bit. Tiff, I've loved doing it alongside you. During the Challenger Circuit, we'll be bringing in some up-and-coming talent on the casting side of things to match those that are in game. So you guys will get to know a lot of new faces alongside the ones that are constantly being introduced to you week to week on the player side. So thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you during the Challenger Circuit.